You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up the better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 7th part of What If Naruto Enters Undertale. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Hussbek on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Toriel gave it some thought and finally made her decision. Alright Askari, if what you're telling me is true and you truly regret your mistake, then I suppose I'll grant you a second chance. Askari was surprised to hear but looked hopeful to hear it. Really? You mean that? Toriel nodded in response, yes I do. I'll forgive you. However, that doesn't mean we're back together. You're going to have to earn it. If you want my trust, love and affection for you again, you're going to have to prove yourself and work for it. Can you do that? Askari smiled and nodded eagerly. Oh of course, no matter what it takes, I'll do it for us. I promise. Toriel looked at him for a bit before smiling a little. I'll hold you up to that promise. Just don't make me regret giving you that second chance. I won't. Everyone was happy for this moment as Toriel seemed to finally forgive him. Papyrus said, wowie. I'm so happy for them to make up. Sans said, yup bro, ain't that swell sight. Would have brought tears to my eyes if I had any tear glands, making the young skeleton groan at his brother ruining the moment with one of his lame skeleton jokes. Even Undine said, it's about time, I hate having to see the former king looking down in the dumps at those times. Alphys agreed, feeling that her favorite shipping is back. At least it's a start, hopefully they'll eventually get together again. Naruto was also smiling at this display along with Frisk, Asriel and Red. Anyways, Naruto gained their attention by speaking up, well I'm glad that you're giving Askari another chance Toriel, and I'm proud of you for it. And I'm happy for you as well Askari. But I think we are getting off track here. Let's get back to what I was going to discuss about, which is Asriel being the first and original owner of the reset button. Everyone nodded and listened attentively. Anyways, back to the subject at hand. Asriel was indeed flowy back then, and he once had the power of reset at his disposal before Frisk and I showed up. If Alphys gave him DT during his sudden return, then it's likely of how he got it from Alphys' story. Asriel was the first to have that before the both of us. Now I don't know what he did with that power as flowy before our arrival, but it's Asriel's choice in telling you all that. Though personally in my opinion, it's better that you don't need to know since it's irrelevant to us now. Don't you agree Asriel? Said Naruto, looking at Asriel pointedly. The young dreamer seemed to caught on what Naruto is implying, and he fully agreed given his numerous past resets as flowy were not good ones and probably doesn't want them to know, and as Naruto stated before, it's irrelevant. Everyone was confused and skeptical about that, but for the life of them, they chose to not voice it and just move on. Naruto then said, alright, now you all know about the power of reset that we held, but mostly me, and even showed it to you all. Now I can move on to the next part that involves resets routes. Routes? Asked Alphys confusedly. Naruto nodded in affirmation, yes routes. You see, there are 3 different routes that I know of that you start off the moment you fall into the underground. The 3 route paths are neutral, pacifist or genocide. Neutral run means kill some monsters, which me, Frisk and Nicken never did. Pacifist run means sparing everyone, which we are right now. As for genocide, well I think you all get the general idea from that video footage alone. Sans decided to ask Naruto, that sounds very informative, but let me ask you something, how did you learn this information? How do I know this? Well it's because I have experienced it, and it's not just me but Frisk and Nicken as well. For me, Frisk and Nicken in our timeline, we started off from neutral run as we had no idea what to expect after we both fell into the underground until later. As I mentioned before, we never killed anyone until we were forced to fight Askari, which we convinced him to stop the fight. Things were looking great until Flowey got behind Askari and killed him while taking the 6 souls, which we were forced to fight him as he absorbed the souls, which made him an overgrown weed. Everyone was shocked at this information, especially Askari about Flowey, who was formerly Asriel, killed him and took the souls himself. He doesn't know what to think about the fact his son killed him. But it happened in a different timeline, so he calmed himself while listening. Afterwards, we got freed but didn't save the monsters until Flowey told us a way to go back, which we load our save file, which we came back mere moments before confronting Askari in the throne room. Which led to the Pacifist run, which you all know what happened with Flowey and the souls incident, right? Asked Naruto, to which everyone nodded as they still recall what happened back then. Now that you guys know about the 2 routes and the power of reset, this brings us the worst path of anyone would do, being the genocide run, which you all watched that video from a different timeline. In fact, this brings back to the question both Alphys and Undyne asked. You too, as well as everyone else, want to know why Frisk was committing genocide and what led her down the path she chose. Everyone nodded because they really want to know why. Well, it's a bit complicated, but I'll try to give the answer as understanding as possible. The reason Frisk started genocide was out of curiosity. Everyone was silent till Undyne angrily yelled, "What? You telling us she murdered us and exterminated monster kind just to satisfy her curiosity?" "Why?" Naruto calmly answered, "Well, curiosity can be a dangerous thing. Anyone could have, depending on the specific person, especially determined types." "You don't say," as she looked at Frisk as if she's judging her. Frisk noticed this and felt intimidated at Undyne's intense gaze and went to hide behind Naruto timidly. Naruto didn't like what Undyne is doing, so he decided to get this out of the way by saying, "Undyne, if you're assuming Frisk would do the same here, then drop it. She would never consider the idea of genocide, nor will she ever do it." Undyne didn't look convinced. "What makes you think she won't?" "From what we witnessed in the video footage from that timeline, there's a good chance that little punk could try and pull a stunt by lowering our guard down." Toriel didn't like how Undyne is already suspecting her child to commit the act of murder. "Undyne. No. If that Frisk is capable of slaughtering us and committing genocide on a whim, then what's not to say our Frisk would do the same here?" Naruto then raised his voice angrily and his eyes flickered a bit, "Because she wouldn't do such a thing and never will. I'm the only owner of our timeline, given I'm the most determined, so there's nothing to worry about at all. Now, drop this nonsense. Right. Now." Undyne growled at this as she noticed everyone was looking at her with disappointment, while Frisk looked a bit afraid at Undyne's accusations. Undyne calmed down as she looked away in shame. "Sorry, I didn't mean to call Frisk out. I'm just angry that Frisk would go and do such a horrible thing to us. How exactly is she able to kill us? Especially the royal guards and me, who's a captain? Just how?" Naruto let out a sigh. "Remember how I mentioned about a save file and load button that we use to save all monster kind? Well, it also grants us the ability to cheat death." Everyone then shouted, "What? But how is that possible?" asked Alphys. "It's because of the power of determination that a human soul has. A determined person like me or Frisk can persist beyond death, which allows us to not die immediately but simply come back." "How?" "It's because of a save point that only me and Frisk can see. Think of it like a respawn, which actually is the case. Now if we die, our soul would shatter and we would end up in a dark screen that says, 'Game Over,' on it, which gives you the option to try again by either load your last save file or continue where you left off. Not only that, after losing the battle against who we fight, we come back after knowing the person's strategy and patterns, which is probably Frisk's case in that other timeline." Naruto took a deep breath from explaining all this as he sees everyone's shocked expressions, though he noticed Sans' eyes are dark as if he's pondering over this information. Naruto made a statement. "Now I know some of you think it's like a game of sorts, but the sad truth is it's exactly like a game. And just to point it out, no, me and Frisk don't see it as a game." Everyone didn't seem to like this info, especially Sans. However, they let Naruto continue. "For that genocide timeline, this is where things get a bit complicated. You see, in that timeline, Frisk has done countless resets just to find something new. Given she's done a lot of pacifist runs, she got bored from doing the same thing and nothing different had changed. Which led to the next problem. Frisk was greeted by someone, an outside force, who gave Frisk the idea, which was for her to commit genocide. At first, Frisk didn't give in until her curiosity got the better of her and went with it. Of course she regretted it almost immediately the moment she reached the Judgment Hall, said Naruto, as he doesn't want them to know that said outside force is Chara, who's the first fallen human who was consumed by her own hate that made her become a genocidal maniac. Red for the first time decided to ask him, Naruto, if you don't mind me asking, who is this outside force you're mentioning? And Undyne asked, and why did Frisk regret after arriving the Judgment Hall? Naruto then said, well, for your question, Red, let's just say this person is close to the Dreamer family and leave it at that. As for your question, Undyne, well, all I can say is she was given a bad time until she caved in and gave up. After saying that particular line, Sans looked a bit surprised as he silently looked at Naruto, since that line sounds like something he would say. Anyways, Naruto continued on, however that outside force wouldn't allow that and made her finish the job herself, which resulted in erasing that timeline to start anew. Everyone was shocked as Naruto continued, she did the same routine in the second run without issue until the third run, which I come in. Naruto looked down as the memories of his experience as well of the memories player gave him flashed through his mind, making him clench his fists. At first, I was confused as to why that portal brought me to the underground until I discovered the scattered dust all over the place, which told me I'm not in the same underground that I knew, and learnt I was taken to another timeline where genocide was taking place, and then later discovered that it was Frisk who was the cause of that mess. It left me shaken and devastated that one of my closest friends would ever do such a terrible act. Everyone was stunned and saddened that Naruto was forced to witness and experience all that, especially Frisk, Red, Asriel and Nikken. Heck, unaware to everyone, Chara, who has been watching and listening, was feeling bad. She looked away while feeling responsible for it due to her own hate that led her down that genocidal path and forced the other Frisk to commit the murders. They all heard Naruto continue. So I had to figure something on how to leave that timeline, but mostly I want to stop that madness from continuing the CYCL, so I had to confront Frisk. Kushina shouted in horror, Naruto. That's very dangerous. Why would you confront her, who's a murderer of that timeline? Naruto countered with his own reasons, because I had no choice. What was I supposed to do, go run and hide? If I didn't do anything, then I would be stuck there without any help and their deaths would be on my conscience. That I could have done something to help rather than do nothing. That got Kushina to remain silent at this, as she didn't know what to say, which made Naruto allow to continue further. Despite it wasn't my timeline and it wasn't any of my business, I still wanted to help. Figuring out why Frisk would ever go down the path of genocide in the first place. I needed answers, so my best bet was reaching Frisk myself. Given that I arrived mere moments after Frisk left the ruins to snowed in, I had to catch up to her. It wasn't pleasant having to see monster dust scattered everywhere, but I knew that I have to get to her in order to find out the truth. Alphys asked, breaking the sudden silence in the room, were there any survivors that you encountered? Well, aside from you, I did encounter Sans in that timeline, which was after Frisk killed Papyrus. After saying that, Sans' eyes went dark as his expression looked emotionless while Papyrus looked horrified, sad and betrayed. Everyone else was horrified about this news but was surprised that Sans survived and his brother was not. But Naruto didn't stop there, as he said, and later on, I eventually encountered Floey as well while I was in New Home. Apparently, he didn't like how things were looking, but he was among the few who survived the encounter of Frisk's murderous rampage. Undyne then asked, what about Askari? Did he survive? Naruto thought for a moment before replying, well, I don't know, but I assume he did survive given Frisk didn't make it far to the end, so yes. If he survived, then how come he didn't do anything to prevent any of this? Toriel asked confusedly. Naruto, who looked unsure as he said, I honestly don't know. My best guess is he doesn't know how to react at the fact a single human who's capable of wiping out every monster she sees is shocked and doesn't know how to act to this. Given his monster kind is on the verge of extinction, he just remained at his throne hoping someone could stop her instead of doing this himself. Everyone didn't seem to like this news. Even Askari felt nothing but disappointment to his other self for his lack of doing something to stop this madness even if it looked inevitable. Frisk, who decided to ask Naruto about something, so were you able to stop the other me? Naruto nodded in response, yeah, I did, but I wasn't alone though. Curious about the answer, Asriel asked, you weren't? Then who helped you? Even Red asked, yeah, I'm curious to know who aided you in stopping the other Frisk. Naruto remained silent at this as he thought, I'm not sure what to expect from them cause I don't think they know that Sans is the royal judge. But first I need to ask just to be sure and hopefully nothing bad comes out of this. After giving some thought, he asked them a question, before I tell you who helped me, does anyone know who is the royal judge? As expected, everyone minus Frisk and Asriel looked confused as they all shook their heads as they have no idea who, except Askari, who looked a bit surprised and a bit concerned at that question. Not only that, Sans looked a bit pale as he already realized what Naruto is doing. His thoughts were, what are you doing, kid? And Askari's thoughts were, is Naruto planning on revealing Sans' secret? Naruto notices the looks that both Askari and Sans were giving him, which made him decide to talk to them first before telling the others who. He said, alright, well, since no one knows who's the royal judge is, I'm gonna need to speak with Askari and Sans a bit before I tell you. We'll take a small break once we come back. Naruto motioned for both Sans and Askari to follow him, which they did as he led them out of the living room into the room from before. Then he turned to clarify a few things. Alright, so I'm just gonna get straight to the point. I take it nobody in the royal guard knows that Sans is the royal judge, which I assume you kept this a secret, Askari. Am I correct? Asked Naruto seriously. Askari looked a bit surprised at his bluntness but nonetheless responded, yes, it's true, I did kept that information a secret from the royal guard, but how do you know about that? Well, since I asked about that question, I was observing everyone's reactions to see if anyone knew about who's the royal judge, which nobody but me and Frisk know about, which I was half expecting that. Plus I noticed you looked a bit surprised after my question, and as for Sans, well, given his expression it looks to me he doesn't want anyone to know about it, though I do wonder why. Is there a reason for keeping that a secret? Neither Sans nor Askari said anything for a few moments until Askari spoke up, well, it's more of me giving him that position because he's good at judging people depending on the person's character in general, if any fallen humans would ever get far in reaching the judgment hall, and him taking care of his brother. Naruto hummed dolefully, I see, it's understandable, but don't you guys think it's time for them to know now? The royal guard is disbanded and you guys are living up here with us now. At this time, there's no point in keeping it a secret from anyone now, don't you think? Askari thought about it and saw that Naruto does have a point. I suppose you're right about that, but I feel this is Sans' decision if he wants it to be known to them. Fair enough. Well, what do you think, Sans? You haven't said anything at this point. Are you alright with them knowing you're the royal judge? Well, formally at this case. After asking Sans this question, he was in deep thought while still sporting that smile of his and decided to answer him, I guess it's alright to tell them. I mean, I became a royal judge just to take care of my brother. But gotta be honest with you, kid, even if you tell them about me being a royal judge, some may not believe that. Especially Undyne. Naruto quirked an eyebrow at that and asked, why? What makes you say that? Sans went on to explain, well, for one, given my reputation of me being a lazy skeleton, they'll never believe someone like me can be a royal judge. Plus, they'll also take into account that I don't have magic and I only have 1 HP, which makes me the weakest monster. So do you really think that if you tell them about my status, they'll take your word for it? You make a good point about that. But it's up to them if they want to believe it. I'm not gonna force them for evidence, I'm just merely stating the facts. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. Either way, I'm okay with you telling them. Plus it would be funny to see what their reactions would be like. Naruto shook his head in amusement, only you would find that funny, but it does make me curious though. Anyways, let's get back to the others. With that said, Naruto, Askari and Sans returned back to the others in the living room with the blonde calling out to them, thanks for the wait again. Undyne was looking rather impatient, yeah, no problem, so tell us who's the royal judge that helped you stop the BRT? Naruto was silent for a bit before answering her. Believe it or not, the royal judge who helped me is Sans. What? Sans the royal guard? Undyne screamed out in disbelief. Naruto sighed at her expected reaction. That's what I just said. But that's not possible. How can someone like him who's so lazy be the royal judge? You have to be joking, punk. Did Sans put you up to this? Because if so, he got me, ha ha ha. But seriously, who's really the royal judge? Who said it was a joke? That was the truth. Sans is a royal judge. Undyne didn't look convinced at all, but that can't be right. Him being the royal judge? I can't see him being one. I mean, I bet he doesn't even have magic. Sans finally chose to speak up. Undyne, it's up to you whether you believe it or not. Naruto's not one to lie. He's been telling the truth this entire time. So I'm just saying that you should believe what he tells you. You never know what you might want to hear. Undyne looked at Sans then back to Naruto before letting out a groan. Fine, I trust his word for it, but I don't understand. If what you're saying is true, then how come nobody in the royal guard knew about this? Ascari decided to answer her question. That's because I gave him that position in secret. Undyne looked shocked at hearing this and asked, you kept this from us? Why? What reason do you feel the need to keep his status from the royal guard? Even me, their captain. It's mostly because of me taking care of my bro. I mean, we needed the money, so King Fluffy Buns here offered me to become a royal judge. That, and aside from being a watcher, of course, Sans explained to prevent any misconceptions. Papyrus looked at Sans in shock. Sans, you did all that for me? Sans shrugged in response. Sure bro. This made Papyrus go over to Sans and hug his lazy brother. Undyne smiled at this, though still skeptical about him being the royal judge, but at this point, it doesn't matter now since the royal guard has been disbanded after living with humans in the surface, so she just had to accept this info. Alright, I'll take your word, Sans. If Ascari kept this a secret and Naruto knows about this and vouches you, then you must be strong. I'm still skeptical about this though. Do you even have magic? Asked Undyne due to her curiosity. Naruto decided to answer her question. Oh, he definitely does, you have no idea. And yes, he does have magic. He's just too lazy to even attempt it unless provoked or being threatened. Undyne shrugged, understanding that signature aspect of the skeleton, but still asked, okay, so if he's that strong, how was he in the other timeline? Naruto was a bit hesitant but answered her, quite brutal to say the least. As we teamed up against Frisk, he didn't show any mercy at all and was quite intimidating. He didn't even flinch from killing Frisk numerous times as we fought her. Everyone was shocked at hearing this, while Sans' eyes turned dark upon learning about this information, and Toriel had her hands covered her mouth, gasping at hearing Sans having killed Frisk more than once. However, Undyne looked surprised and curious. Wait, really? Wow. I'm actually impressed for someone so lazy to do anything was able to beat that punk. That makes me want to see what he can do, but you didn't do dash. Naruto cuts her off immediately. No, I didn't kill her. Despite what she's done, which would have warranted me of doing so, I just gave Sans some support as he's mostly the one that's been killing her. Even though she could just simply come back through a save point, I still wouldn't have it in me to commit the deed. This gave everyone relief to hear, especially Kushina, for she didn't want to imagine her son committing the act of killing at such a young age, despite he had a reason for it. Toriel looked torn from all this as she spoke out. I don't understand, why couldn't Sans keep our promise? Naruto looked at her in question as she mentioned that. Then he remembered what it was from his talk with Sans at MTT Resort. You're referring your promise to Sans about looking after Frisk and myself, or in this case, the other Frisk, right? Toriel was a bit surprised about him knowing, but nodded since she suspected that Sans would have told him and Frisk. Naruto sighed while he ruffled his hair until finally speaking up. Toriel, I know this is hard for you to hear this, but you need to understand that Frisk is going around killing monsters without remorse out of curiosity, and Sans had to witness the horrors of genocide and the loss of his brother a couple of times from Frisk cutting him down. Can you really expect Sans to keep a promise for you to keep an eye of Frisk to keep her safe when that said person is going around committing genocide? Because if you ask me, nobody can keep a promise from all that. Sans did attempt to try to talk her way out of this but proved to be pointless. I'm sorry Toriel. Toriel was silent about all this as she just sat there while coping with this information she was given. Wanting to comfort her, Askari hesitantly at first but took the courage to place his hand on her shoulder. At first, she didn't respond to his gesture but eventually she leaned into his while still in thought of what she had learnt from the information given by Naruto. Naruto was a bit concerned for Toriel. Do you need a break to clear your mind or? Toriel shook her head with a sad smile. No, there's no need my child. From what the other Frisk has done, I understand what you're telling me. In fact, I don't blame the other Sans for his decision because of the situation he was in. So I shouldn't expect him to keep his promise from all that he had to witness and endure. At least he tried to keep his promise by steering Frisk to the right path but clearly she didn't. So I understand what he had to do. I just wish the other Frisk didn't go through with all this in the first place. Everyone was silent from this with Askari continuing to comfort her which she accepted his concern. Even Frisk and Asriel got off from their spot of the couch and went to hug Toriel, making her smile at their tenderness as she placed her hands on top of their heads to thank them. Everyone smiled at their moment with Papyrus and Alphys squealing out at their cute moment. Even Kushina was happy for them and prayed things get better for both Toriel and Askari to rekindle their affection for each other again. As for Naruto, he too was smiling and happy at their wholesome moment as they were hugged Toriel for comfort. To Naruto, it was like a big happy family, well, almost a big happy family. Naruto glanced over to his right shoulder to see Chara watching them with envy, then looked away while wishing that she was with them, but she's not among the living anymore, let alone a part of this timeline's dreamer family, which she felt nothing but sadness, hatred for how things turned out for her in the end, which led to where she is now, and jealousy for Naruto along with Frisk for having everything they have while she has nothing. Them saving all monster kind, living with them on the surface, having friends and family and saving Asriel. She was felt so much emotions all at once and was struggling to keep them in check, believing that she doesn't deserve to have a second chance and should just disappear, to never exist. It was unbearable for her to witness their moment when she couldn't. Just thinking about her past up to her becoming a murderous megalomaniac made her almost shed tears as she couldn't hold back her emotions that she kept them down for so long until this point. Seeing Chara's mental state, which looks like she's about to have a breakdown, Naruto already had a feeling of what she was currently thinking about and so called out to her mentally, Chara, I know what you were thinking, and if you're blaming yourself to where this led you to now, it's not your fault. I understand, you're not entirely to blame as your own hate consumed you and made you a maniac. Plus, I'll always be here for you if you ever want to talk about it. I hope you know that. Chara looked at Naruto for a bit before smiling a bit as she wiped her stray tears. Heh, thanks Whiskers. I appreciate your concern. Though I don't know if your friends will say the same if they learned who was responsible for the events that occurred in my old timeline. Naruto knows what she's talking about, then gave her his thoughts about it. Well, you'll never know. But I think they'll understand if they know the truth behind all this. Can you really say that once they learn that I was responsible for the whole mess and my own hate was the cause of everything which led up to genocide in the first place? Naruto didn't say a word since he couldn't really predict what could happen because it depends on what his friends' views might be towards her. He knows some might not trust her, but beyond that he's honestly unsure. Seeing Naruto being silent, which showed that he doesn't have a clear answer, Chara spoke. Yeah, didn't think so. But who knows, I could be wrong, so I'll just take your word for it. Thanks for your understanding. The ghost girl simply rolled her eyes before replying, yeah sure, whatever Whiskers. After his brief talk with Chara, he heard Red ask a question. As much I enjoy seeing the Dreamer family having a touching moment, did you and the other Sans defeat Frisk? That question got everyone's attention as Frisk and Asriel went back to their spot on the couch beside Red while Askari went back to his own spot after making sure Toriel felt a bit better now before they all gave their undivided attention to Naruto. Naruto answered Red's question. Yeah, we did. It wasn't easy, but we were able to stop her, but then one thing led one thing to another after beating Frisk. What do you mean by that? Alphys asked confusedly. Well, after stopping Frisk, things got from bad to worse in the end for me. That certain someone I mentioned before was a part of it and appeared after beating Frisk. Undyne, who was thinking while feeling a bit irritated of not knowing the name he mentioned earlier before, that certain someone again he mentioned before. Why couldn't he just say the name of this person? Is it someone that one of us knows? As she was contemplating on her thoughts, Alphys was in the same boat as well. There it is with this certain someone again. Who could it be that he's talking about? While they're curious on who this certain someone is, Naruto was still talking. After beating that said someone, I ended up facing a threat greater than her, which quickly proved to be the toughest fight of my life. I had some close calls from my experience in that timeline, but in the end, I managed to save that timeline and I made it back to my own timeline safe and sound. Kushina curiously asked Naruto about something. So, how exactly did you get back to our timeline? Let's just say, I made a particular friend that brought me back here. Who was the cause of sending me to that genocide timeline through her portal she created in the first place? Wait, did you say, her and she? So this person is a female? Sorry, but that's all I'll be mentioning about. It's complicated for me as I'm still coming to terms from what I learned and experienced. Kushina wanted to press for answers, but due to what her son had experienced, she decided to drop the subject. Besides, the only thing that matters to her is his son's safe return. Anyways, Naruto then concludes, that was it. That's my entire story from my sudden disappearance, where I ended up and my sudden return and the abilities Frisk, Asriel and I possess and the timelines. Everything. I told you guys the truth. From what you do with this information is entirely up to you, but from your opinions, what do you all think about all this? Everyone was silent as nobody could imagine the experience he went through. Kushina then spoke up, you want to know what we think? Well, let me be the first to tell you as I speak for everyone is that I believe you. Naruto looked at her as he said, huh? I said I believe you. Despite this whole story of yours to be considered far-fetched and unbelievable to hear, but the evidence you shared with that video and your abilities to control this timeline and well everything, I say all of it is believable. Plus, I'm just happy that you returned to us unharmed and back home where you belong. Everyone nodded in agreement as Kushina went to go hug Naruto. After finishing their little moment, Naruto spoke, well everyone, thanks for listening to my story. I hope the information I gave you all was insightful. I'm just glad I'm back home in my own timeline. With that being said, you can all go back home and thank you for your time. However, Undyne interjected, hold on there Naruto, there's something I've been wanting to ask that's been bugging me for a while. Alright, what's your question? Asked Naruto confusedly. Undyne then demanded, you keep mentioning about this certain someone for a while but you never mentioned this person's name. Not only that, you even said, her and she, which means this person is female. So I want to know is who is that person? Does she have a name? Tell us. Even Alphys chipped in, I agree with Undyne, this person you're not telling sounds suspicious, so we just want to know who's the mysterious person you're avoiding to tell us. Naruto was silent, he was hoping they wouldn't ask him that question. He wasn't sure what their reactions would be like, especially Asriel and the Dreamer family if he were to tell them about Chara. It will affect them greatly if they were to learn about her involvement in the genocide timeline. Before he can utter a word, he heard Chara's voice, hey Whiskers, if you want let me speak to them. Naruto looked surprised at this while unsure of the idea. Chara, are you sure this is a good idea to talk to them? You realize if I were to let you take control to speak to them, not only would you reopen bad wounds to the Dreamer family, especially Asriel into believing that you're alive and return to them despite you're a different Chara of another timeline, but you would have to tell them that you're responsible for the horrible genocide runs you committed due to your hate. I can't guarantee how they're gonna react once they learn that you're the true culprit. Worst case scenario, they might hate you for it and won't ever forgive you. Yes, I'm aware of that and still intend on doing this, unless you have a better idea of telling them yourself Whiskers. Naruto was silent as he doesn't have any ideas, which only proves her point. I didn't think so. Besides, I want to do this to help you. Don't get me wrong, I shouldn't even consider doing this. Part of me thinks this is dumb and just keep myself silent and never know about my existence here, but I want to make up for the damage I caused you and my old timeline. I need to redeem myself if I truly deserve a second chance. You may have given me an opportunity of a second chance, but I don't expect them to do the same. Especially Undyne and Sans. They may hate or don't trust, but to me, that's fine. I'm not asking for their forgiveness. That's their choice and I'll accept whatever their views of me will be. The only thing I'm asking of them is to allow me to live in your timeline to start anew. That's all I'm asking for. If they can't accept me, then maybe I don't deserve to be given a second chance or live here in your timeline if I'll forever will be unwelcome and alone. But at least I'll have you since I'm literally bound to your soul, so not all is bad for me. Anyways, just let me try and speak to them, Whiskers. Can you allow me to take control until then? Naruto was very unsure about this, weighing the pros and cons of this request while the others were looking at him waiting for his response and Undyne looking more impatient. Well? Are you gonna tell us or what? Undyne asked in annoyance. Naruto doesn't seem to have an alternative answer for this, and he seems he has no choice right now but to allow Chara to take control in order to speak to them. Alright Chara, I'll let you take control of my body to speak to them. But if things go south and gets out of hand, I'm taking back control. Chara understood and nodded to him, which Naruto thought, this is probably gonna be the worst decision I've ever made, but I don't have any other options right now. I'm hoping nothing goes wrong after this. After making up his mind, Naruto to the others, alright, I'll tell you who's the mysterious person I've mentioned, but I have a better idea. Instead of me telling you who, how about I show you all instead? I'm bringing in someone who I'm sure the Dreamer family will know, especially you Asriel. Just keep in mind that I'll be out for a while, but I'll be listening in. Try to stay calm once you find out who I'm revealing to you all. After giving them a fair warning, he told Chara, alright, go ahead. Chara nodded and flew right into Naruto's body, which made him gasp and slump with his head down, preventing everyone from seeing his face. At first, they looked confused while Kushina found this to be a joke and thinking he's playing. Naruto, now's not the time to be playing around, said Kushina. She gets a reply, but for some reason, it was a female's voice as he replied. Naruto isn't here right now, Ms. Kushina. The sudden change in the voice threw everyone off. But hearing that particular voice made the Dreamer family, especially Asriel, widen their eye as Toriel muttered, wait, that voice. I know this particular voice, it sounded like, as she was talking, even Asriel recognized that voice. It was the voice of someone he missed so much since. Before he could think any further, Undyne demanded, what is this? Who are you? How is Naruto speaking like a girl? Naruto retorted rudely, that's because this isn't Naruto you're all speaking to, fish sticks. What? Allow me to introduce myself to you all. Whilst saying that, Naruto's face was lifted up and revealed something different about his eyes. Instead of blue eyes he always has, it's now crimson red like BLD that gave him an intimidating look. Greetings, my name is Chara. I will be taking over in his stead for the time being. For now, I will answer your questions that regards to me until you're satisfied. After introducing herself, everyone was beyond shocked at this new development, especially the Dreamer family, as they couldn't believe what they just heard. In fact, they didn't want to believe it, for it sounded too good to be true. Toriel muttered silently, see Chara? Is that really you? Chara looked at the Dreamer family and she could tell that they were begging to know if this is really her and not some sick joke. Especially Asriel, who looked desperate upon seeing his first best friend while holding back his tears. Chara then confirmed their thoughts vocally, yes, it's really me. On cue, the Dreamer family went to hug Chara as they cried in pure joy at seeing her again. Despite their technically hugging Naruto, but Chara is currently in control, so this is fine. After separated, Asriel stepped forward as he couldn't hold back as he hugged her while crying, which made Chara tease him, you're still the crybaby that I remember. Hearing that made Asriel fully convinced that it's definitely Chara. I'm so glad you're back, Chara, I missed you so much. Chara, while shedding tears of her own, I missed you too, Azzy. As they hugged it out, everyone finds this a appealing sight, especially to Papyrus as he was once again squealing at this sight. Although both Undyne and Sans did find it a nice reunion, they still couldn't help but wonder where she come from. Alphys then spoke up, as much as I don't want to ruin this touching moment, but, what is the first fallen human soul doing in Naruto's body? Undyne added to the question, yeah, I want to know about that too, so what's going on? Asriel looked them confusedly, what do you mean? Chara is from here, don't be rude. However, Chara said, I'm not your Chara, Asriel. What do you mean? What I mean is, I'm not the Chara of your timeline but rather the genocide timeline. Hearing this news left everyone in shock and disbelief, especially the Dreamer family and Asriel, while Undyne and Sans narrowed their eyes at Chara. Askari then spoke, why you're from that horrible timeline? But how are you even alive? Better yet, how are you even here? Chara sighed at this as what she's about to say will change their views of what she truly is. Well, remember when Naruto kept mentioning about a certain someone after he and Sans defeated Frisk during the genocide run? That someone is me. Now everyone was beyond shocked, the Dreamer family didn't want to believe what they heard and Asriel was in denial. Toriel then asked, my child, please tell me you weren't responsible for taking part of commenting genocide, right? Chara was silent until she spoke, yes, I was part of it, but the thing is I'm responsible for starting the genocide run in the first place. What? Everyone screamed while Undyne and Sans became a bit hostile towards her as the former spoke, so you're the punk who started that whole mess. Which she nodded. Undyne immediately summoned her spear as she was about to lunge at her to kill until Chara calmly spoke. I wouldn't attack me if I were you. Give me a reason why shouldn't I kill you for what you did, you little punk. Undyne was barely holding herself back from attacking. Because if you kill me, you kill Naruto as well. I doubt he would appreciate becoming a corpse. I'm only here to tell you guys who's behind the events that started the genocide run, which happens to be me. All of this happened because of me and I feel responsible in telling you all about everything instead of Naruto. He agreed in letting me speak to you all regarding my involvement in that timeline and I intend to do so. Once I'm done, I'm letting him take back control of his body. Is that enough reason for you, fish sticks? Undyne growled at her, calling her that, but she does have a point that she can't physically attack her because that would mean hurting Naruto as well. Plus, if she's willing to tell them why she started all of this, then she'll hold off on attacking her for now, fine. I'll back off for now, but you're lucky you're in Naruto's body to communicate us, because if it wasn't for that, I would kill you right here and now. Chara rolled her eyes in response, whatever you say. Then Sans decided to speak, so buddy, can you tell us how are you alive, how you're here, and most importantly, how are you involved in all of this in your own timeline? Chara looked at Sans as the two stared at each other in a very ominous way. To Chara, she's reminded of her fight back in the Judgment Hall as she looked at him, and for Sans, he felt like he should kill her where she stands if she tries anything here, but he can't do that because that would mean killing Naruto as well, so he might as well learn her reasons before judging her. It was his main job after all. Chara then spoke, Naruto already explained everything about my timeline and the genocide runs, but he left out some details about my involvement. You see, I was awoken from death by Frisk when she fell down. At first I was confused but curious as Frisk who wanted to save monster kind. After going through countless Pacifist's run, she was getting bored from seeing nothing new. So I attempted to manipulate Frisk by giving her the idea of committing genocide. At first she refused at the thought, but eventually her curiosity got the better of her and decided to go through with it, which began the first genocide run. She almost made it to the end, but after reaching to the Judgment Hall and fighting Sans, she couldn't get past him and eventually, she regretted her actions and planned to reset. However, I stopped her and forced her to continue, but she kept refusing from finishing what she started, so I took control of her body and finished what she couldn't do. From there, I erased the timeline and started the second genocide run where I was the one in control. Like the first, I erased the second timeline without a second thought and began my third run, which was when Naruto entered into my timeline as I started. Nobody could believe what they're hearing as everyone was on edge. Asriel wanted to ask her why was she doing all this, which she said, I wasn't myself. I'm sure you're aware about my hatred towards humanity but never told you why. Well, my hate was the cause of me being a murderer. After Naruto defeated me, he ended up facing my hate. Your hate? Alphys inquired timidly. Yes. Hate is a very dangerous black substance that corrupts the individual who's filled with hate. I sometimes have hate oozing out of my eyes and mouth whenever I'm angry or making a scary face. I'm sure you know about that, right? Is real. The young dreamer looked away, remembering that time when he wanted to take a picture of her with a camera but failed to capture it due to not removing the lens. That was when he saw Chara making a very scary face which frightened him. Anyways, due to my hatred towards humanity and the genocide runs, my hate became sentient and started to corrupt me to the point I was no longer myself anymore. It turned me into a menace that wanted to kill and destroy. Naruto put a stop to hate for good, and once he got rid of my hate, both he and the other Frisk made a true reset to fix the damage my hate had done. As for me, well, after they reset, I was no longer part of Frisk but instead latched onto Naruto. Their reset made me take refuge in his soul after purging my hate, including me in the process. After that, I spoke to Naruto and he gave me second chance to redeem myself, and then, here we are now that I stand before you all. Everyone was quite in disbelief at hearing all of this. Alphys, being more vocal, said, "Oh, okay. At least we now know how the genocide run all started. But what I don't understand is, shouldn't you return back to your own timeline?" Undyne chipped in by saying, "Yeah, the last thing we need is you causing us trouble just like what you did in your timeline." Chara glared at Undyne. "Shut up, fish face. I already told you that it's not my fault entirely. It was my own hate that corrupted me to act that way." But Undyne had a rebuttal ready for her, "And that hate came from you because to your hatred towards humanity. It originated from you to begin with. You could still be a ticking time bomb waiting to go off while affecting Naruto in the process, which puts all of us in danger. Did you not hear a single word I said, or you got some salt water stuck in your ears? Naruto already purged my hate out of me. That doesn't mean it couldn't happen again if you start generating more of it. At this point, things are looking pretty intense, as if a fight is about to break out, until Kushina yelled out. Enough. Once she got their attention, she spoke. "Undyne, I understand where you're coming from, as there could be a possibility of it happening, but if she truly believes it's been purged out, then we shouldn't concern ourselves too much about it." Undyne could not believe this. "Are you serious? She could be lying for all we know. Your son could be in danger if that BRT gets the chance to cause harm." Kushina then said, "I'll admit this is a huge risk we are taking, given what she was capable of in her timeline from what Naruto described, but if Naruto believes she deserves a second chance to redeem herself for her mistakes, then I'll accept his decision. Don't get me wrong, I don't trust her unless she proves me wrong to earn it. So far, we'll see if she truly deserves redemption." This was something the Dreamer family and others agreed, since they want to believe that there's still some good in her. Sans wasn't though, but didn't say anything for now, wanting to be in the neutral for the meantime until something changes his opinion. Papyrus was silent in all this, not knowing exactly what to say but deciding to see how things go before creating his own opinion. Red, on the other hand, decided to keep an eye on Naruto and make sure that nothing bad happens to him again. Undyne was silent for a while until she backed down. "Fine. I don't like this, but if Naruto says otherwise, until then I'll just have to deal with it." Kushina nodded at this while saying, "Thank you," to her. Chara just rolled her eyes at the drama Undyne has against her being here, which she had every right to be, but it doesn't mean she liked it. Anyways, Kushina then asked, "Now with that settled, I believe Alphys asked a question about you returning to your respective timeline. Is it possible?" "I'm not sure it's possible for you guys to send me back even if I wanted to, but honestly, I don't want to go back," Chara admitted truthfully. "Huh? But why?" Alphys asked confusedly. "It's because of what I did in my timeline. The killings taking control of Frisk, making her do genocide runs, ruining her life." Chara sighed to herself, "I think it would be better if I don't come back and let them live their normal lives without me, as I just ruined their hopes and dreams. Besides, there's no hope for me anyways, not like it has been from the beginning." There are times she would question the purpose of her existence as to why she's still here when she should remain dead, but she guessed that it's just life's way of screwing with her even in death. Everyone felt bad by this, especially the Dreamer family. Heck, even Undine felt bad after hearing her reasons, which made her feel sick for how she treated her despite she did it to protect everyone and herself. Sans was neutral about it, but even he felt bad for her. Asriel went to Chara and hugged her as he said, "I don't care if you're not the Chara that I know, you're still the same Chara that I'll always be best friends with. I'll accept you despite what you did. If Naruto can accept me and gave me a second chance, then you can be accepted too." Chara was shocked by this, to hear that she can be forgiven. Then she suddenly returned the hug whilst holding back her tears. Asriel noticed this and joked a bit, "Heh, who's the crybaby now?" Chara smiled, "Oh hush Azzy, this doesn't count." Inside the mindscape, Naruto was watching everything that was happening and smiled at how things are working out well minus Undine and Sans' distrust towards Chara, but at the very least, they're neutral about it. Anyways, they accepted her living here in their timeline, and once she had her chance to speak to them, she gave Naruto back control over his body and he returned to normal. He told them thanks for listening his tale and wanted to ask what's their opinions about all of this and if they believe him. Needless to say, they were beyond convinced, as they definitely believe him and gave their opinions about this, mostly about making sure to be cautious towards Chara if she shows any aggression towards them. Anyways, after everything has been resolved, everyone decided it's time to go home after learning what happened to Naruto, as left to do their own thing while some left do some thinking from all this information. Later that night, Naruto was lying on his bed with Nikken curled up next him, basking in his presence, and Chara hovered above him when they heard knocking on the door for a moment before it opened as Kushina came inside and sat next to Naruto, who sat up with Nikken on his lap. "So, was I able to convince you today?" asked Naruto. "Like I said before, I believe you now. Considering the video you showed to us and the powers you displayed, I see no reason not to believe you. You can consider yourself not grounded for the year," said Kushina playfully, making Naruto chuckle before adopting a serious look. "Mom, there's something I didn't mention to the others that I want to tell you." "What is it?" asked Kushina. "During my fight against Chara in the other timeline, I was in a pretty bad position when something happened. I don't know whether it was a delusion or was actually for real, but I saw Dad and spoke to him." Kushina was taken aback upon hearing this and whispered softly, "You saw Minato?" "I can't be too sure, but he was telling me not to give up no matter what, helping me forgive myself for what I did that day and telling me that he'll never stop loving us even from beyond the afterlife," said Naruto, smiling at the memory. Kushina smiled tearfully, "That sounds just like him, always giving you advice when you need it the most. I can see that since you no longer wrap your hands anymore." Upon hearing her words, Naruto looked down to see that his hands were indeed uncovered and he wasn't bothered by it anymore, unlike in the past, meaning that he had truly moved on even if he feels like his hands are naked. "In spite of the terrible things that happened to you, I'm glad to see that there were some silver linings on your dark cloud. Let me not keep you up any longer so you can go to sleep since the next day is school." Kushina rose from the bedside and prepared to leave. "Thanks Mom, good night." "You too son, same goes for you Chara." Then she left the room with Chara looking rather surprised. "Why would she say goodnight to me? I thought she doesn't trust me like fish sticks and the bone-headed comedian," asked Chara confusedly. "Pretty sure she's being neutral here, neither liking nor hating you." "It depends on how you tip the scales from this point onwards," Naruto pointed out. "Whatever you say, Whiskers." Chara floated around Naruto with a shrug of her shoulders. "So, what happens next from now?" "Hard to say, since this recent escapade has pretty much taught me that absolutely anything can happen, so I'd better be prepared for whatever comes my way." Naruto held out a hand and watched it emit a fiery white aura with his eyes glowing with the same aura. "Well, I'm sure it won't be boring at least." "True that." On one fine afternoon, Naruto was in his room and making an entry on his diary while Nikken was rolling around a bit on the floor to blow some time off until the blonde is ready to leave, and Chara was floating around with a bored look on her face before calling out to Naruto. "How much longer are you gonna keep writing on that book?" asked Chara boredly. "Can't say for sure, but I'll be done before you know it." Naruto assured the ghost girl who simply huffed while floating upside down to stare at him. Whatever you say, Whiskers. With that said, Naruto returned his attention back to his diary and resumed writing on it with a thoughtful look. Dear Diary. It's been several weeks since my return from the timeline where the genocide in the underground had occurred, and I was at least able to stop it at the third time. It was a real eye-opener for me, making me realize what could have happened had Frisk and I treated what we went through in our own timeline like a video game. After my return, I had to go around and apologize to the monsters for my sudden absence as they were worried about me. The Dogi couple nuzzled me for more than an hour the moment that they saw me. Ms. Muffet was quite upset and I had to promise her to visit her more often for a cup of tea, though Chara seemed to be grumpy when I was with her. Naruto paused for a moment to think about something before continuing to write. After the revelations of many things, there were changes among everyone, both subtle and also major. For one, Askari and Toriel seemed to get along much better compared to before, when she often gave him a hard time about his past actions. I hope that the bad BLD between them goes away and they get back together. I can tell that they truly miss each other. One of my greater worries is about Frisk, as ever since I told her about what happened in the genocide timeline, she's been having nightmares where she saw herself doing genocide, which terrified her, and fear falling asleep to avoid having those nightmares again. I need to find a way to help her. As for Asriel, he's been coming by a lot to hang out with me, while at times I would visit him and Toriel Abakan, and also to reconnect with Chara given their history together in the past. At times I would let Chara take control of my body so she would speak to him and even play video games, as although Azzy tends to beat her often in them, much to her frustration. Guess there's something she can't beat him at yet. Hearing a sneeze, Naruto glanced over his shoulder to see Chara rubbing her nose in confusion as to how is it possible for a ghost to sneeze. Naruto looked back into his diary with a chuckle, knowing what exactly happened. Another change to be noticed would be from my mom. I began to notice that she appeared happier and much more joyful ever since I told her of meeting Dad's spirit and hearing his last words to us. There was no doubt that she missed him just as much as I do. He was our pillar of stability and we felt lost without him. But now, she's finally out of that stupor and moving forward with a bright smile on her face. Alphys has also been expressing interest in the power of save and reset. She wanted to know how they work and the potential they have, since I can come back from the dead unless I'm in another timeline. I have no intentions whatsoever to use the reset, but I've been noticing save points at certain places, with one being at my home. I never saw them before until my return from the genocide timeline, which makes me wonder about the cause of it. Papyrus is still his usual optimistic self, always seeing the bright side of things in spite of the revelations. But he tends to feel a bit nervous whenever Chara takes over my body, and I can tell that Sans would be watching from somewhere during those times. Chara herself doesn't seem to want to be around Papyrus too much out of guilt for killing his counterpart, who never saw her as an enemy and had tried but failed to change her mindset. But not everything is fine as of now. Undyne still doesn't trust Chara, which I can understand, at least since she along with the others know what she's capable of in her original timeline, being rather tolerant whenever I let her take over my body to get used to everyone in my timeline. Ever since then, Undyne's been like a hawk watching over Chara's every move in case she goes back to committing genocide just like in her old timeline. Don't even get me started on Sans. He too doesn't trust Chara just like Undyne, and I can't blame him for that, to be honest. After all, the other Sans in the genocide timeline lost everything: his friends, his brother, everyone. He watched it all happen and couldn't do anything to stop her, and in the end, he was a victim to Chara's killing rampage like all the rest she slew throughout the underground. Anyways, Sans hasn't really been doing much other than being his usual self when I'm around, but when Chara is in control, that's a different story. I can tell Sans is keeping a close eye on her every movement she does that isn't involving causing harm, while Chara just dislikes him in general due to her experience with Sans. So clearly her, Undyne and Sans aren't in good terms with each other, and I hope that changes soon. Naruto let out a sigh of mild exasperation at what he had just written, clearly seeing the tension between the three being thick enough to cut like a knife through butter. Then he picked up where he left off. Speaking of Chara, she's starting to get used to my timeline after living here for some time now. As I mentioned previously, she's getting used to everyone. In fact, she's been getting oddly close to me for a while now and possibly protective too, which it might have something to do in school, or more specifically, the school bully Susie. Ever since my last encounter with Susie involving my inability to fight back due to my past issue, Susie's been picking on me for the most part after her initial threat of her biting my face off, all because I caught her eating chalk the other day. Back then I didn't want to fight her because of reasons that could hurt her or worse, but now that I have no qualms of taking action, Susie has been getting on my last nerves recently, and apparently the same could be said for Chara. Frisk, Usreal, Red, MK and even Noelle are worried about me, but I told them I'm fine, though they don't seem to believe that, especially Red, as she wanted to stop this nonsense, but I told her to not get involved cause I'll handle Susie if things get too out of hand. At first she wasn't sure but accepted it. However, Chara wanted to take control so she could do something to her, which was out of the question. Besides, she hasn't done something major yet, but when she does, well, I'll handle it. Plus, Chara at times makes some jokes about Susie, like referring to her looking just like Barney the dinosaur, which made it pretty hard to not laugh during class since I can definitely see the resemblance of one. Naruto chuckled at the memory, then something caught his eye which made him write about something relating to it. Lately, I've been undergoing training and relearning the techniques that Dad had taught me. I had redesigned the techniques to be more defensive, but that has changed now that I'm moving forward and no longer shackled by my past. I'm also learning new magic arts from the grimoire. It seems to flip to pages on what I'm supposed to learn and wouldn't allow otherwise. I intend to ask the others about the blue and orange attacks so I can incorporate them into my fighting style, pretty sure they'll come in handy in the future. Oh yeah, Undine has another training trip planned for us in a couple weeks' time. Can't wait to show her what I can really do now that I'm no longer hesitating to attack anymore. I might even learn something during then. Aren't you done yet? We're burning daylight here. Chara exclaimed, clearly at the limits of her patience. Okay, I just finished my entry right now, said Naruto, closing up the diary and putting it away. Nikken perked up and immediately scampered over to his side with his tail wagging happily. Finally, now let's go over to Azzy's place. This time he won't be able to beat me, said Chara with fire in her eyes. I don't really understand why you're so hung over this. Does it really bother you that Azzy is better in video games than you? Asked Naruto as he left his room and was going down the stairs to get his bike from the garage. You don't get it, my pride is at stake here. How can I proclaim myself the best when I keep losing like this? There's something about losing that really grinds my gears. Yeah, I can tell, Naruto muttered, recalling her behavior when they fought back in the genocide timeline. Well, this time is going to be different. I'll show Azzy who the true victor is, me. Chara declared loudly. Naruto rolled the bike out to the drive with Nikken hopping into the basket and prepared to ride. Just try not to turn it into a 5-hour marathon like last time. Mom and Toriel Basin weren't exactly happy when they found out. Chara simply huffed in response, then Azzy should prepare himself to lose. The trio rode off for the Dreamer home to spend one of their more normal days with the others. Unbeknownst to them, Player was watching them leave with a grin on her face. Nice to see them getting along, but they'd better be ready for the long road ahead of them. Naruto's venture through the genocide timeline is merely a key opening a door into something they won't be able to close now. Makes me curious to see how they'll go about it. I can't wait for when that time comes. Player giggled in excitement before teleporting in a bright flash of light to destinations unknown. Naruto was currently cycling along the sidewalk on his bike with Nikken sitting in the basket and was enjoying the blowing wind in his furry face, and Chara was floating next to him in her spectral form. They were heading over to the Dreamer home to hang with Usreal and Frisk. Can't you go any faster? I want to get over there and beat Azzy already, asked Chara with a small frown. Naruto quirked an eyebrow in response. We'll get there when we get there, no need to be in a hurry. Well, he's been getting cocky about being able to beat me and I want to knock him down a notch. Sounds to me that you just don't like losing, Naruto retorted. Chara looked away with a pout and her arms crossed. Who does? It sucks. You can't exactly win every single time, you know. Says you, you're just as good in video games and fighting in general. The moment you stopped being scared to attack, the hate and I didn't stand a chance. I had redesigned the techniques which my dad had taught me to be more defensive in the beginning, but now I'll be retraining myself to MSTR the proper forms for the future. I have a nagging feeling that going to the other timeline isn't going to be a one-time thing and prefer to be ready for anything. You have a point there. Soon enough, they finally arrived at their destination as Naruto parked the bike and made sure that it's secured before making his way to the front door and pressing the doorbell. They didn't have to wait long for the door to open and were greeted by Ascari. "Oh hello, children," said Ascari cheerfully, knowing full well Chara is with Naruto even if he couldn't see her at the moment. "Hello Ascari-san, wasn't expecting to see you here," Naruto greeted. "Tori has gone out to a teacher's conference today so I offered to watch over the kids for her." "Is Frisk still feeling unwell?" asked Naruto with concern. Ascari frowned. "In ways yes, she still has trouble sleeping." Naruto frowned at this. Ever since the revelations, Frisk had been having trouble going to sleep as she said she'd been haunted by nightmares of attacking and hurting monsters which made her afraid to sleep most of the time. This made Naruto and others worried about and trying to find ways to help her. "Anyways, come on in. Even Red and Monster Kid are here today in the living room," Ascari spoke up. "Oh okay." Naruto along with Chara and Nikken went inside the house. They went to the living room where they could hear the sounds of video games from the hallway. Inside, they saw Asriel and Red playing Street Fighter on their PlayStation 4 with MK cheering them on while Frisk watched from a couch with a tired look on her face. "Whoa dudes, Asriel won again," MK announced, making Asriel puff up his chest with pride while Red pouted since she has more losses than wins. "It goes to show just how amazing I am," said Asriel proudly. Naruto then spoke up, "Can you really say that given our win/loss ratio?" This drew the attention of the others in the room who welcomed them. "Hi there Naruto, is Chara with you?" asked Asriel. "Like always, just give me a moment." The grimoire hovered in front of him and opened up while flipping through the pages before stopping at a particular one for him to read. Here it is. Scrying sight, a glyph appeared on the floor and expanded a bit, making everyone's eyes glow faintly, which seemed to have given them the ability to see spiritual beings as they could now see Chara floating in the air above them. "Looks like you're enjoying your many wins. Well, I'm going to change that," Chara declared challengingly. Asriel smirked in response, "I'm ready when you are. Naruto, if you don't mind." Naruto shrugged, "Sure, but I'm only letting you play for 5 matches. No more than that." Yeah, sure. Chara flew into Naruto's body, his eyes changing from blue to red to signify the possession. Chara picked up the game controller and went to the character select menu. "Alright then, let's get started." "I can't wait to see what you guys can do," said MK excitedly. Ascari sat on the couch next to Frisk with a content smile. "Seeing those two playing together fills me with such nostalgia." "I can tell," said Frisk tiredly. Sure enough, the competition was underway with the first match of Chara choosing Chun-Li and Asriel going with Sakura, and the end result was Chara being the winner. The second match was Chara with Chun-Li again and Asriel choosing DJ with the young prince winning this time. Third match was Asriel DJ sticking to using DJ and Chara choosing Ken, but the latter lost again. Feeling a bit frustrated, Chara selected Blanca whilst Asriel remained with his previous choice and Chara managed to win the fourth match at the last moment. With the scores all tied up and moving on to the 5-match, Chara went back to Chun-Li and Asriel selected Honda with the end result being, "I lost." Chara cried out in displeasure. "And Azzy won. Man, all those battles had me on the tips of my toes," said MK excitedly, having been watching how the two had been going at it between them. "Grr. That's it. I'm going for 1mo dash." Chara suddenly found herself shoved out of Naruto's body and confronted him about it. "Why did you do that?" Naruto quirked an eyebrow. "Have you forgotten that I specifically said only 5 matches exactly and no more than that? I mentioned that specific number to ensure who the winner would be more accurately." Chara turned away, looking a bit frustrated. "That's not fair. How about you guys play a different game? I can barely feel my thumbs." "We can play that Spider-Man game and pick up where we left off," Red suggested, getting the others to agree with her as they reset the console and prepared to swch the game discs. Seeing that he could finally rest for a bit, Naruto went to sit on the couch along with Ascari and Frisk before speaking to them. Frisk, are you doing okay? Frisk smiled tiredly. I'm doing okay, nothing for you to worry. Ascari frowned a bit. You may say that because you were able to sleep last night, but that partial insomnia hasn't gone away. I'm okay, really, Frisk insisted, wanting to bother anyone with her problems much to everyone's inward disagreement. Seeing that Frisk is refusing to budge on the matter, Naruto decided to change the subject. Ascari-san, can you tell me about the concept of orange and light blue attacks? I'm curious to know why, asked Ascari curiously. Ever since my return from the other timeline, the power of my determination had truly awoken, and also because, Naruto stretched a hand out as a knife made out of white aura materialized and plopped onto it. Then he tossed it into the air and transformed into a Bakken and dropped onto it again before he dissipated it with a wave of his hand. It has opened me up to infinite possibilities which I'm gonna need for whatever comes my way in the future. The king of monsters saw the look on the face of the child whom he had come to view as a son just like Asriel and noted that he still retains some traces of innocence, but the majority is of a guardian who desires to be strong enough to protect those close to him, and sighed, wishing that wasn't the case. Very well, but you'll need to understand the origins of the light blue and orange attacks if you wish to use them to their fullest potential. Seeing that he has Naruto's full attention as well as Frisk's, Ascari began to explain. The light blue and orange attacks are based on the traits of certain soul types, with the former based on the soul trait of patience and the latter based on that of bravery. An aspect of those possessing soul traits of patience is that they're calm enough to wait things out, which influences their magic, causing things to go through them unharmed should they stand still. As for those possessing traits of a brave soul, they willingly approach dangerous situations without fear, always moving forward to reach their goals. Enemies would have to keep moving around if they wish to avoid damage from such attacks, and users of this soul trait will have increased defense against attacks if they move towards them as opposed to standing still. I see, Naruto hummed in thought, gaining an idea of the concept and recalling how Ascari used the two attacks when he fought him and Frisk in the past. While Naruto was deep in his thoughts, MK decided to ask the others about something. So, what guys have planned later on? Red looked thoughtful for a moment. Well, we have a training session coming up with Undyne, and Alphys said that she has something new to try out with us. Sounds to me that Undyne wants to check up on Naruto the most, Asriel pointed out. A training session with Undyne and she has something new in mind? Can I come and watch, please? Asked MK pleadingly. Sure, just as long as you have your parents' permission. You tend to forge to ask them, said Red. The armless raptor-like monster child started jumping up and down in excitement. Awesome, I can't wait for that day. I'll get to see some cool moves. Sure enough, it was the weekend and the group went to Naruto's training grounds in Mtiabat and were taking part in various training routines with Alphys, Sans, MK and Frisk watching due to the latter not being physically or mentally suited to take part for now. So, it was Naruto, Red, and Asriel who are undergoing training and had just finished the capture the flag game against Undyne and Papyrus. Alright you three, you can take a break now, said Undyne before going over to Alphys, who was looking intently at the screen of her laptop and was studying the recording of the recent activity. So, what do you think so far? I've gotten a lot of data from today's exercise, even more than the previous training session. Because of Naruto, right? Asked Undyne. Alphys brought up a recording of the previous training session and placed it next to the latest one. In the past, Naruto always hesitated to attack, but now, she played both recordings and the difference between them could not be ignored. He's more inclined to attack more than defend. Tell me about it. He kept me on my toes the whole time and made it that he practically forced Papyrus and I to keep an eye on him while the others got more room to be able to claim the flag and secure it at their territory. Sans popped up next to them to look at the screen. It's rather obvious that the kiddo's change has to do with his time in the other timeline. No doubt his interaction with Chara forced him to change. His statement made them glance at Naruto, who was smiling in amusement at MK's excitement upon seeing how he and the others accomplished the capture the flag game, then at Chara, who was floating above them with a bored look on her face. They couldn't help but feel sad upon seeing someone as young as him had to experience such things and was forced to mature mentally. Undyne had still not let go of her displeasure towards Chara due to being the cause of Naruto's change and doesn't trust her fully. Even Sans has made it a point to keep an eye on the spectral girl in case she attempts anything that would endanger everyone. Nga. We can think about that punk at a later time since we've got better things to do right now, said Undyne in annoyance. Sans shrugged his shoulders. You're right, we can pick bones with her later. WL, looking at the recording. Naruto had been sticking to the basics of his sword style and hasn't used any of his new powers and magic spells, Alphys pointed out to them. In that case, I've got an idea, Undyne then called, hey Red and Blondie, I need you two over here. Naruto and Red went over to Undyne to find out what she wants with the former speaking. What is it, Undyne? I'll be needing you two to spar with each other in full contact, which means you can use everything during the spar. This could help Red figure out how to at least summon one of her guardians and we get to see you use some new moves too. I'm okay with it if Red-chan is, said Naruto, having no objections. Red nodded eagerly. I'll be happy to, I'm sure to find a way to summon a guardian with your help. With that said, Naruto and Red faced each other in the training ground while the others stood at the sidelines to watch the spar which was about to begin. MK and Nikken were cheering for the both of them. Red brandished her sword whilst Naruto concentrated inwardly, then stretched out a hand as he materialized a katana made from his determination, but everyone soon noticed that there was something odd about the weapon. What's up with the kid's sword and why is the sharp edge on the wrong side? How is he supposed to cut anything with that unless he rotates it? Asked Undyne confusedly. Alphys had her drone take a picture of the sword with her drone and ran a search online on her laptop and soon found information about it. It's called a sakubato or reverse sword in English. It is especially made to oppose the very purpose of all swords, which mainly designed to kill. The main purpose of the sakubato is not to kill but to incapacitate the enemy so they won't be able to fight anymore. There's even a saying here, he who fights not for the taste of adrenaline or the sake of power, but to bring peace to the world. Now I get it, he wants to be able to fight with his full strength and not restrain himself out of worry of possibly killing someone, said Undyne in understanding and approval. Guess the kiddo is taking his job as an ambassador rather seriously, said Sans with his usual toothy grin. They're about to start, said Alphys upon seeing Naruto and Red take their stances to begin the spar. Coming at ya. Naruto leapt into the air with a front flip and attacked with a one-handed downward diagonal slash which Red evaded with a sidestep, then countered with a frontal move of her saber. Naruto dashed sideways to dodge and actually threw his sword at a surprised Red, who deflected the thrown weapon before dashing to attack her opponent. Naruto stretched out a hand as his sword reappeared on it in time to deflect Red's incoming strike. Dignus. He moved a hand to conjure a glyph which launched a trio of fireballs at Red, but then she summoned the large spinning blades and launched them to destroy the incoming projectiles and continue to attack Naruto. Cubus. He slammed a palm to the ground to form a glyph to create a large solid block of stone in front of him which the spinning blades impacted upon but then slowly grinded to a halt and dissipated afterwards. Numa. He moved a palm forward to conjure a glyph to launch a gale of green wind downwards whilst strkng across the floor towards Red, but she quickly leapt high into the air to evade. At that moment, Naruto utilized Endeavor to reach up to her in the air and both began clashing blades as they descended before breaking away upon landing on the ground. Whoa, those two are really going at it, said MK in awe. Yeah, I never would have thought that Naruto can fight like this, said Asriel thoughtfully, having fought him and Frisk back then and he could see the stark differences between then and now. Sans watched the ongoing spar attentively, particularly Naruto, whom he took note of the white fiery aura radiating from his eyes which reminded the comedic skeleton of how his eyes would glow whenever he uses his magic. I wonder why his eyes does that when it doesn't apply to Frisk either. Could the power of determination somehow affect him differently compared to everyone else? They say curiosity killed the cat, but it's a good thing that I'm a skeleton. After breaking away from yet another clash, Naruto thought to try out what he had discussed with Ascari. He channeled his aura through the sword and swung it to launch a blue slash wave horizontally towards Red. Surprised at first, Red regained her focus and immediately stood still for the attack to pass through her, but then Naruto appeared before her after using Endeavor to rush up to her and attack with a flying kick whilst the extended foot was emitting an orange fiery aura, much to Red's surprise as she got hit and was knocked to the ground. Since when did Naruto learn how to use blue and orange attacks? Asked Alphys confusedly. I remember Naruto talking to Ascari when he came to our place to play games with us, maybe he learnt it from him, said Frisk thoughtfully. Makes sense since I learnt much from the king as well, but I gotta admit that combination attack is quite impressive. Baiting Red into standing still to avoid the blue attack but be unable to defend against the orange attack in time, said Undyne in approval. Red groaned in pain as she got up from the ground. I must admit that I wasn't expecting you to do something like that just now. Naruto shrugged in response whilst twirling his sword one-handedly. My dad had taught me to always be unpredictable in everything I do, this way I can have an edge against whatever comes my way. I pretty much felt that point. Which is why you need to focus on summoning a guardian. Red frowned. I'm trying but it's like I've almost got it but at the same time I haven't. Naruto hummed in thought, trying to recall how he achieved his own awakening and accessed his inner powers before coming up with some idea. Maybe it has to do with your drive. My drive? What do you mean? Looking back, I noticed that my powers truly awakened when I came to terms with myself and resolved to move forward from then on. Maybe that's what you're missing. What is the purpose of your summon? Why do you want to use it? How strongly do you feel about it? My purpose, my reason, how I feel. Red stood there in thought with everyone watching her. I want to protect my loved ones, to not let them down when they need me the most. I'm willing to give everything to do that. With her declaration, there was a bright flash of light which almost blinded everyone until it faded for them to see what appears to be a Delta Guardian which closely resembles the Delta rune symbol with a purple glowing orb at the center as it floated in front of Red protectively. Well, what do you know, you managed to summon a Delta Guardian, said Undyne in approval. I guess Naruto's suggestion really helped her figure out how, said Alphys. MK looked at the Guardian with sparkles in his eyes. Wow, it looks so cool. And that's saying something, Asriel added in agreement. Astounding, the great Papyrus must work hard to achieve a similar feat. Papyrus declared in excitement. Try not to overdo it bro, else you'll end up bone dry. Sans pointed with his daily skeletal pun much to his brother's frustration. Let's see what it can do, Fulgur. Naruto conjured a magic glyph to launch a ball of purple lightning. The Delta Guardian immediately positioned itself to intercept the incoming projectile without Red giving it a command, successfully blocking the attack. Then it retaliated by launching an energy beam at Naruto who quickly formed a shield of determination in crescent form to block it. They were about to resume the spar when Undyne called out, "Alright you two, the spar is over." Naruto and Red looked at Undyne in confusion with the former being vocal about it, but Undyne, we were just getting started. As much as I want to see you two keep going at it, let's not forget the purpose of the spar which is to see what you can do and to help you figure how to finally summon a guardian which you did, Undyne explained, making them pause in thought. Now that Red has succeeded in the summoning, we can run some tests on it such as its duration while summoned, its durability, functions and what else we can discover, said Alphys already taking notes the moment the guardian was summoned. Oh well, I could use a break anyways, said Naruto with a shrug before sending away his sword, seeing no need for it as of now. After all, we still have lots to do, Undyne pointed out. Oh man, I'm all tuckered out, Naruto tiredly as he plopped onto his bed later that night at home. Undyne had really run him and the others to the ground with her training, making them reach their very limits in order to make them break through. Even the wolf pup wasn't exempt save for Frisk for understandable reasons. Naruto felt too worn out to take a bath but knew he had to if he doesn't want his mom to come up and see that before actually bathing him herself. He felt embarrassed, recalling how she did so some time back and he swore to never let that happen again for his own sake. He was about to rise from his bed when his phone began to play a tune to notify him of a message. He picked it up and looked to see that it was from Ms. Muffet. I wonder what she wants. Naruto tapped the mail icon to open the message and read it to find out. Hello there, cutie pie. It's been quite a while since you came to my bakery so I figured that it was long past due to invite you over to have tea with me. I do hope you accept my invite cause it will be quite saddening if otherwise. I do hope to see your reply soon. Naruto looked at the message thoughtfully. Well, she's been offering an invitation to have tea with her and frankly I could use a break too. So, I don't see why not. He sent a reply in affirmation to come over to her place for tea and received a response containing lots of emojis to depict her happiness at his acceptance. Ugh, I don't see why you should have tea with that arachnid, Chara complained with a huff. Because she's my friend and I'd like to spend time with her, considering I've been doing so for the others, Naruto responded. But is it really necessary? I know you're still getting the hang of being friendly but you shouldn't be letting your past be stopping you from achieving your own happiness, alright? I was shackled by past sins but broke free, since then I had never felt so at ease. Chara was silent at Naruto's words. I see. Naruto went to the bathroom but stopped at the door for a moment. And no peeking from you. Hey, what do you take me for? Chara was irritated by the blonde's words. Just making sure, since you're a ghost and all. Just go and take your bath before you make me any madder. Chara turned away with her cheeks redder than usual in embarrassment. On Sunday, Naruto was riding his bike, having left Nikken and a grumpy Chara behind to stay with his mom at home while he headed for the bakery. He arrived at his destination and went inside to find Ms. Muffet tending to the last of her customers before seeing Naruto and beaming happily that he's here. You finally came and right on time now that the rush hour is over, said Ms. Muffet happily. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Guess it's in the timing. And with that said, Muffet snapped her fingers once the last customer left for one of her spiders to lock the door and flip the sign to show they're closed for the day. I'll have everything set up at the terrace above while you put this on and meet me there. Naruto looked at the freshly cleaned tuxedo in his hands which Ms. Muffet had just given. You bought a tux for me, but why? Well, obviously I can't have tea with you dressed like that. The spider girl gestured towards Naruto's current state of clothing. This is a special time between us and I'd like for it to be proper. Okay, I get it. I'll go and change, said Naruto in a placating manner. Ms. Muffet nodded in approval. Good, my little dearies will show you to the room and then lead you to the terrace. Hope to see you soon. Then she left to get things ready. Sighing in resignation, Naruto followed the spiders to a room to change from his clothes into the tuxedo. Stepping out of the room, he adjusted the tie around his neck so he could breathe easier and was seriously fighting back the urge to take off the tux as he dislikes wearing these kinds of formal wear but chose to bear with it for now. He followed the spiders to the terrace and was quite taken in by the decor. The scenery is that of a rose garden with beautifully designed wooden archways along the path to a vintage-style table at the center where Ms. Muffet sat waiting for him while dressed in a vintage tea dress with purple flower prints, puffed-up sleeves and a frilled hem while she had her hair done in a bun and a large purple bow tied around it, a pair of teardrop earrings, and a pair of purple cone heel shoes. You're finally here and you certainly look quite handsome in that tuxedo. Ms. Muffet looked at Naruto with amiable eyes, making the blonde blush from the compliment. Thanks, your dress makes you look pretty too, said Naruto shyly. Ms. Muffet cupped her blushed cheeks with one pair of her hands, seeing how shy Naruto was acting when he complimented her. Ah, you're just saying that. But thanks anyways, have a seat so we can begin. Sure, but, Naruto went over to one of the chairs and pulled it back. Ladies first. A gentlemanly cutie, what a lovely combination, said Ms. Muffet happily as she took her seat before Naruto pushed it into position before sitting down on his own. He looked at the table which has a white lace-styled cover to see it laden with a three-tier serving tray which has several types of pastry, a vintage tea set with multicolored flower prints on them, and he could see the vapor wafting out of the teapot. One moment, let me serve you. Ms. Muffet began doing several things at once with her arms. She picked up the teapot to pour the tea into the teacups, took a few sugar cubes from the sugar bowl to drop them into the cups, also pouring milk into them before finally stirring the contents in the teacups to mix them evenly, then passing one of them over to Naruto. Here you go. Thank you. Naruto graciously received the teacup and took a sip, feeling the hot beverage course through his body and sighed in relaxation. Awa, so calming and tasty. What flavor is it? It's chai, a tea flavor from India. I learnt that drinking will make you feel warm and cozy, even best suited for setting up the mood for conversations, Ms. Muffet explained. Couldn't be any truer as I feel very calm right now. Glad you approve, shows that I'm making great progress for my future plans. Naruto quirked an eyebrow in confusion. Future plans? I'll tell you about it soon, for now let's enjoy our time together. Taking heed to her words, they drank tea and ate the pastries which she had prepared for them. The spider girl had made chocolate chip cookies, macaroons and cheesecake. After some time, Naruto decided to speak up again. So, what future plans were you talking about? Asked Naruto curiously. About that, my dearies and I have been making plans to extend my bakery business with an addition of a tea shop, which is why I've been studying intently on the various kinds of tea and the benefits they grant both physically and mentally, Ms. Muffet explained. Oh, that would be why you decorated the terrace this way? Naruto looked around to see that there were several open spots mean for outdoor furniture. Ms. Muffet nodded happily in affirmation. Exactly, I learnt that a good decor makes for the perfect ambience when having tea. I've already found suitable furnishings for the place. You mean this table we're sitting on? Asked Naruto. Goodness no, this is my personal purchase meant for me and the dearest of friends. Ms. Muffet stated while looking straight at Naruto, making him realize the true meaning of the sentence, and started blushing. Oh, I see. But the next step would be to purchase the right tea sets, which might be tricky since I want to avoid going for potential fakes in the current markets. Naruto hummed in thought while trying to come up with something when he recalled a certain memory. How about checking the antique shops? I remember my mom buying a unique tea set a long time ago. I can take you to the shop where she bought it and you might be able to find ones to your fancy. Ms. Muffet clapped her hands happily. Oh, such a gracious idea. We can schedule the right time for us to go together and see what they have. Sure, I don't mind. Soon it was time for Naruto to leave, as he had changed back to his normal clothes and the tuxedo was packed into a bag, but not before Ms. Muffet made it clear to him that he's required to wear for their tea times. Dear me, how easy it is for time to go by when one enjoys themselves a lot, Ms. Muffet sighed while feeling a bit disappointed. Naruto nodded in agreement. True, but it's not like this will be the last time. Indeed, but to commemorate our very first, the spider girl suddenly leaned forward and kissed Naruto on the cheek, much to his shock. I believe this will do just fine. You. What? Why? Huh? Naruto couldn't make up a proper sentence with his face glowing red and steaming coming out of his ears with the whistling sound of a boiling kettle. Ms. Muffet giggled at his reaction. You just don't stop getting cuter. Thanks for the tiabi. Naruto got on his bike and sped off at high speed in embarrassment. Seeing Naruto leave in such a manner made Ms. Muffet giggle in amusement before then speaking up. Did you get them? A spider lowered a brown envelope with its web line, which she took and reached in to bring out several photos depicting her with Naruto having tea, while the last one was of her kissing the blonde on the cheek with the image of his surprised expression made her giggle even more. I can't wait for more tea times with Cutie in the future, said Ms. Muffet eagerly while looking at the photo. It was another day at school and students were leaving their classrooms for recess. Frisk was currently walking through the hallway with Asriel and Monster Kid accompanying her out of concern due to her weary disposition. Frisk, are you sure that you're okay? Asked Asriel. Frisk smiled tiredly in response. Yes, I'm fine. No need to worry. You saying that while having dark rings around your eyes for more than a week rather makes us worry even more, said MK. I'm sure that it will eventually go away. That's what you said last Ti. Look out. Asriel cried out a warning, but he was too late as Frisk ended up bumping into the back of someone, and of all people, it had to be Susie, who turned around and was anything but happy the moment she set eyes on Frisk. What are you playing at here? Susie demanded. Frisk shook her head while waving her hands in a placating manner. I'm not playing at anything, it was an accident. It certainly didn't feel like an accident. You think yourself to be a big shot around here that you can do anything? Asriel stepped up to try to calm things down before they escalate. It was an honest mistake, Susie. Frisk hasn't been feeling too well lately. Of course you would support her, Mr. Prince, you can do anything after all, Susie sneered in response. He didn't mean it like that, MK pointed out. Like you speak for him, lizard boy. Our Highness can do that by himself, and as for you, Suzy grabbed Frisk by the collar and lifted into the air with one hand. You're gonna play the piper. Wait, put Frisk down. Asriel wasted no time trying to help Frisk, knowing full well that her current condition makes her unable to properly defend herself. Back off, goat boy. Suzy knocked Asriel down to the ground with a backhand, making the surrounding crowd gasp in shock. And now for you. She reared a fist back to hit Frisk when someone yelled at her. Suzy. Everyone turned to see that the person yelling was none other than Naruto, who glared at Suzy angrily. Several minutes earlier, before Frisk was being bullied, Naruto had left the classroom while in the company of Red and Noel after having listened to the teacher's lecture for the day. Chara was floating overhead with a bored look on her face. How I hate school, just what is there to benefit from it, Chara complained. Naruto retorted, you can't really say that when you're not exactly a part of it, being a ghost tethered to my soul and all. Frankly, you ain't gonna receive any sympathy from me since we'll both suffer the same pain here. You two don't have to be so negative about school, you know, Red pointed out to them. Humph, speak for yourself, Chara retorted. The group were walking along the hallway when they noticed that some of the kids were running to a specific location and the crowd was forming a circle around something, much to their curiosity. I wonder what's going on there, asked Noel. Let's head over there and find out, Red suggested. They went to take a look and were shocked upon seeing Frisk being held up by the collar by Suzy with one hand, and Asriel was trying to settle things peacefully. What is Suzy doing? Asked Red confusedly. Are you seriously looking for a reason when there's something far more important to do? Said Chara angrily. It was at that moment that they saw Suzy knock Asriel down to the ground and was turning to hurt Frisk, which made Naruto's anger skyrocket. Suzy! His shout made the students part away from him to approach Suzy with his fists clenched and narrowed eyes locked onto his target. The person in question quirked an eyebrow at the supposed wimp's change in attitude but shrugged it off. Oh, it's you, nerd. What do you want? What I want is for you to let Frisk go, said Naruto. Suzy scoffed in response, and what makes you think that I'll listen to you? Get lost, loser. This has nothing to do with you. She was about to turn her attention back to Frisk when Naruto spoke up. The moment you start bullying my friends, then it has everything to do with me. Now put her down. Oh, is she now? What is she, your girlfriend or something? Afraid that I might mess up her pretty face? I wonder how her mother would react if she were to see her sporting a black eye or a broken arm. Naruto was growling almost like a feral beast after hearing her say that he was barely suppressing his magical aura, while Chara was basically calling out Suzy's death as she demands to take control in order to do the act herself, but was refuted. Red was getting angry at how Suzy was intending to do harm to Frisk, while Noel was worried and afraid of Frisk's safety and hoping this doesn't break out a fight. Asriel was horrified at what Suzy wants to do to Frisk, while MK looked concerned and afraid. Frisk herself was scared of what Suzy was planning to do to her when that she heard next left her horrified. Oh, I got a better idea, I think I'll just bite her face off. Frisk looked so scared she tried to get Suzy to let go, but her strong grip wasn't budging as Suzy just laughed at how pathetic Frisk is doing, desperately trying to set herself free, which only angered Naruto further, with the same going for Chara and Red. Having had enough of this, Naruto spoke. Knock it off, Suzy. Let go of her right now or dash. Or else what? Suzy cut him off. You're gonna make me, tough guy. Because there's nothing you can do. You don't tell me what to do. Now you better keep your mouth shut if you know what's for you. With that threat given, she thought that Naruto would obediently listen and back off. However, that thought was dashed away with the boy's response. If you don't release Frisk right this instant, then you're gonna regret your actions and suffer the consequences if you know what's good for you, Naruto spoke with no sign of hesitation or doubt. Everyone was silent as they looked shocked at what Naruto had said to Suzy, as some are murmuring at each other over this. Suzy slowly looked at Naruto as she spoke in a low but threatening tone. What did you just say to me? Naruto, without batting an eye, replied, you heard me. This is your final warning and I won't repeat myself. Let her go. Now. Suzy was glaring at Naruto as they both stared at each other before Suzy finally lets go of Frisk by dropping her, which Frisk landed on her peach, which hurt as Israel and MK rushes to her to check if she's alright after what Suzy just did. That was uncalled for, Suzy, said Red angrily. Suzy merely responded in an indifferent tone, guess my hand must have slipped. Besides, I did what the nerd wanted, I let her go, as he requested. This little why isn't she dead already? Chara yelled. Naruto himself was this close to his breaking point. Alright, what's your deal here, Suzy? You think this is funny to you? Do you find enjoyment just by bullying others? Ha! So what if I do, got a problem with that loser? DMN right, I got a problem with it. I'm sick and tired of you being a JRK to others just because it makes you feel big as if you own the place. That needs to stop now. Suzy just laughed this off. Where's this newfound confidence coming from, nerd? You didn't show anything off that the other day when I pinned you against the wall and threatened to bite your face off while you looked like you were about to wet your pants in fear. So since when did you get the guts, I wonder? Naruto's eye started to twitch as everyone was murmuring about this information while his friends gasped at hearing this news, which Red suspected this must have happened at that time when Alphys asked Naruto to check on Suzy the other day, which only reinforced her anger towards Suzy. I wasn't afraid of you. If anything, you just caught me off guard while feeling shaken. That was it. Besides, why would I be afraid of someone who's from a kid's show, Barney? After saying that, everyone started snickering with Suzy looking angered by him calling her that. What did you call me, runt? You heard it clearly, Barney the dinosaur. Everyone started to laugh at Suzy as they began singing that cringy song, I love you, you love me, towards Suzy, which made her embarrassed and enraged. Having had enough, Suzy slammed her fist into a random locker, which made a dent from her strength, which made everyone silent, making them back off from this. Suzy slowly made her way towards Naruto, intending to hurt him. You got some real guts saying that to me. You think you can make fun of me and get away with it? Perhaps you need to learn to respect the pecking order and know your place. She was about to grab hold of Naruto and Red was about to jump in to intervene when the blonde suddenly released a small burst of his magical energy as a warning for her to back off. What's even more shocking was that his left eye was glowing with a white fiery aura, which shocked the students. Naruto spoke sternly, my place is to keep bullies like you in line and to never mess with my friends. You're not gonna lay your Barney hands on me, nor will you hurt me. Here's what's gonna happen, back off, leave my friends alone and go about your business elsewhere. If I find out or catch you pulling another stunt of bullying one of my friends again, just know this. He held out a fist radiating with the same energy as his left eye, you'll be facing severe consequences. Suzy wasn't sure of what to make of this because this isn't how she was expecting this to happen, as she feels shaken at this new Naruto before her. Deciding that it would be wise to back off for now, she put her hands in her pockets and turned away from him. TCH. Whatever, I'm outta here. As she made her way through the hallway, as the group of students quickly moved out of her way, she stopped and gave Naruto a glance of anger, which was basically telling him, you better watch your back, nerd. This isn't over. Then she continued to leave while everyone was shocked that Naruto had actually talked Suzy down and made her back off, which was something no one had ever thought would happen and would not be forgotten for a very long time. The crowd cleared out of the hallway as Naruto went to check on Frisk and the others to see if she's alright. Frisk, are you okay? Frisk smiled in reassurance. I am okay, thanks for helping me. What about you, Azzy, you good buddy? Asriel nodded in affirmation. I'm okay too, no need to worry. Whoa dude, it's so cool that you stood up to Suzy like that. You were just like Undyne. MK exclaimed with eyes sparkling with awe and admiration, making Naruto feel a bit shy. You certainly emit the fiery disposition of a knight, said Red in agreement. It's no big deal, I just wanted her to leave you guys alone, said Naruto, sheepishly rubbing the back of his head. Noel sighed in relief. I'm just glad that no one got hurt. Humph, I would have simply killed her, Chara commented nonchalantly. Which was exactly why I didn't allow you to control my body. Killing is too easy of an option that you would choose. That was when a voice spoke up. I got to hand it to you, it's pretty brave of you but also foolhardy to go up against Suzy. Everyone looked to see Birdly approaching them with a frown on his face. Now you've ended up making yourself a major target for Suzy to focus everything she has to make your life miserable. Naruto scoffed, I could care less about that. Then he turned to Frisk, but what happened that made Suzy target you like that? Frisk then explained she accidentally bumped into Suzy without paying attention due to her not getting much sleep, which resulted in Suzy thinking that she was asking for a fight. It's all my fault. None of this would have happened if I was more aware of things. Naruto shook his head in disagreement. No, it's not. Don't blame yourself over this. Frankly, it's been a long time coming that someone would need to stand up to Suzy. So please don't blame yourself. But honestly, we held back because we didn't want to misuse what we were taught in the off chance that we could really hurt someone, Red pointed out to Frisk. I wouldn't have hesitated to do so, said Chara. That's enough, Chara, remember our agreement, no killing whatsoever, said Naruto mentally in a serious tone. Ugh, fine. Hey, how about a sleepover at my place? That ought to put us all in better moods, Naruto suggested. Hearing this made the others perk up. Sure, I'm game for it, said MK eagerly. I certainly don't mind at all, I'll even bring along some anime for us to watch, said Red happily. Asriel nodded in agreement. It's been a while since our last sleepover, I'm all for it. I don't mind either, said Frisk with a tired smile. Alright then, we'll have the sleepover on the weekend. I'll get everything set before that day, said Naruto. Let's hurry over to the cafeteria, lunch break will soon be over, said Noel. Birdly scoffed at the group. Goes to show that I'm more prepared than you all with my lunchbox already set. See ya. Then he left them for his own destination. Well, he has a point, so let's hurry, said Asriel. The rest soon made their way to the cafeteria in order to get something to eat before the next classes. The weekend had eventually arrived and Naruto was already making preparations for the sleepover before the others arrived. Having decided to have the sleepover outdoors in the backyard, Naruto had gone to purchase 2 extra-large dome tents with porch attachments for each gender thanks to the gold he has, and had deposited into his back account along with an inflatable sofa for movie night. Setting things up was a bit tricky, like pitching the tents and filling the inflatable sofa up with air as well as other things, but he was able to pull through, and Kushina had already prepared food and snacks for him and the others. Sure enough, the others had arrived with Asriel and Frisk showing up first, Red and MK coming afterwards with their things. Glad to see you guys make it here, said Naruto as he welcomed them into his home. We wouldn't miss it for the world, said MK excitedly. So, what is it you have for us on our third sleepover? Asked Red curiously. I got the activities list right here. Naruto held out a notepad for the others to read from it. Number 1, bake a cake. Number 2, blind taste testing. Number 3, board games. Number 4, DIY photo booth. Number 5, singing karaoke. Number 6, pillow fight. Number 7, movie night. Number 8, stargazing. What do you guys think? Asked Naruto. I'm thinking that we're gonna have a lot of fun, said Asriel. And like Asriel said, they did have fun that night, baking a cake which got a bit chaotic and left a mess in the kitchen, but luckily Naruto's grimoire came to the rescue by providing a spell to help them clean up, testing each other's ability to identify certain recipes without looking at them, playing board games and doing faux photo shoots, with much more to come. We really need to do this more often, said Asriel. As of now, they were all sprawled out on a large blanket as they looked up at the twinkling stars in the night sky. Naruto saved this activity for the last, recalling how the monsters enjoy the outdoors greatly due to having been locked inside the mountain for so many years because of humanity's paranoia. You're right, Asriel. It's nice to just kick back and have fun with friends, said Red with a content smile. And not having to worry about anything, Naruto added. Well, this is nice, Chara admitted, recalled how she used to do something like this with Asriel when they were in the underground. Frisk yawned tiredly. I'm feeling a little sleepy, I'm going to bed first. I think we all should turn in for the night before Mom gets mad at us for staying too long. You're right, I'm kinda scared to imagine how angry Mrs. Uzumaki can be, said MK, shuddering at the thought of it. Bidding each other good night, they went to their assigned tents with Naruto, Asriel and MK going into one tent while Frisk and Red went into the other before falling asleep. However, someone wasn't sleeping and it turned out to be Chara who emerged from within Naruto's soul, checking to make sure that they're fast asleep. Good, he's sleeping. Now to go and confirm my suspicions, Chara muttered to herself. She left the tent and went to where the girls were sleeping, entering it and came upon a saddening sight. Frisk was curled up in her sleeping bag, her body shivering all over and sweat dripped down her face as she in fright as if she's having a nightmare. Chara frowned at this. Sorry for what I'm about to do, Frisk. But I need to if I want to find the source and get rid of it. She then transformed herself into a blue ball of flame and disappeared into Frisk's soul with the girl squirming for a moment before trying to combat her nightmares once more. Chara appeared in the soul's cape and was surprised upon seeing what it looks like. It looks just like our home back in the underground, but Chara saw how the windows of the house are smashed and the door itself has been broken down. Something's wrong here. She went into the house and welcomed by the sight of the place in shambles. I'm starting to get a bad feeling about this. Bang bang bang. The faint sound of something banging was heard and Chara traced the sound to where it was coming from. It seems to be coming from the basement. She made her way down to the basement and could hear the banging sounds getting louder. Then she heard someone shouting farther ahead of her. Arg, you stupid girl. Why do you keep resisting me? Give up and let me take control already, the unknown person spoke angrily. Upon hearing this, Chara hastened in her steps to reach the end of the tunnel towards the doors that would lead out to the snowy forest from the ruins. She arrived to see the very doors having been heavily damaged and barely holding on, and the person responsible stood before it with their back facing her as they resumed attacking the door but then stopped to turn around. So, you're the one I sensed, said the person. Chara glared in response, and you're the one responsible for plaguing Frisk with nightmares all this time. Guess I shouldn't be surprised since it would obviously be you, Chara. The two Charas faced each other in silence as if looking at their reflections, albeit with certain differences, as one has the expression of calm while the other has the expression of hatred. This continued for some time until one of them finally decided to break the silence, being the Chara from Naruto's dimension and MT. Chara. To be honest, I wasn't expecting that we would meet like this. But I suppose that it was only a matter of time when we meet face to face, said MT Chara. The Chara from the genocide dimension and G Chara shrugged in response. Well, you're not wrong. I had often wondered if I would ever meet my counterpart in this timeline, though I'm not too surprised that you would be the source of Frisk's nightmares. MT Chara quirked an eyebrow at this. You knew I was responsible for her nightmares? Not at first. But then the way she described them were similar to what I did in my own timeline, which made me come up with the possibility of you being in her, and I was right that you really are the culprit, Chara explained. Well, aren't you perspective? Yes I am, but what does it matter to you? Frisk's safety matters to me. Just what is your reason for tormenting her this way when she hasn't done anything wrong? MT Chara rolled her eyes at Chara. Do you really need to ask such a stupid question? Surely you should know given you've done this in your timeline. Chara sighed with her eyes closed. You're right, I don't know why you're doing this. You're me after all. You're attempting to take control of Frisk by breaking her will. That's right. When I finally take over her body, I'll kill that annoying pest of a human, Naruto Uzumaki, whom she's so fond of. He's the reason why I wasn't able to influence Frisk, as she always listens to him and ignores me. It makes me so sick that he keeps getting in the way of my plans. Once he's dead, I'll take the power of reset as my own and change things back to how it should be, said MT Chara evilly. Of course, why am I not surprised by this? You clearly wish for genocide because of your hatred for humanity, said Chara. Exactly. If you knew what I've been planning on doing, why don't you join me? Together, we'll be unstoppable. Chara scoffed with her arms crossed. A tempting offer, but I'm gonna have to say no. It's rather obvious that MT Chara wasn't happy to hear her offer being rejected. You would abandon your goals of humanity's destruction and rather side with them. Who said anything about me taking sides? I still hate humans, that hasn't changed, but Jichara's mind recalled the memories of the time she spent with Naruto and the others, her veil of hatred having been lifted for her to see the positivity of things more often than the negativity. It's more than just that. What could possibly be more important than the destruction of humanity? Chara demanded angrily. Letting go of your hate. My hate? Jichara clarified for her counterpart, the more your hatred from humanity grows, so does your hate. That black substance that oozes out of your eyes and mouth when you make a scary face. It's not worth it, no matter how you believe humanity deserves it, you'll end up losing yourself to it just like I did. And besides, you won't be able to take the power of reset from Naruto. I speak from personal experience. Chara looked at Jichara with disgust. Tch, it's all too clear that you've gotten soft after living in this timeline. I'll never let go of my hate as you call it. If it means resetting everything back to ensure humanity's demise, then so be it. I'll make everything feel the pain I felt but twice as much. Jichara frowned at this. Does that also include taking away Asriel's chance to live again? Chara growled upon hearing the name. Don't ever mention that traitor's name. That crybaby isn't my brother. He couldn't follow the simplest of instructions and is the very reason why our plan failed in the first place, which got us both killed for nothing. He doesn't deserve a second chance but remain a flower for the rest of his life. I'll give him a real reason to cry about. He along with the monsters deserve to die 100 times over. As Jichara stood there and watched Chara rant about hating everything and everyone that wronged her, she couldn't help but feel like she was looking at the reflection of her past self on a cracked mirror. She remembered when she and Asriel sat together in the cave of glowing flowers. The dreamer made a wish to climb to the top of Mtbat to look at the world. She remembered laughing at his wish and revealed that she also had the same wish. The memory made Jichara question herself whether she truly meant that wish or said it on a whim. She remembered how happy Asriel was, even more so when she reunited with him and the dreamer family properly. Jichara got the opportunity to see the kind of life she would have had if she weren't so hellbent on genocide, and it took being transported to another timeline to see that. Jichara stepped forward with her eyes narrowed in focus. Too bad that it will not happen with me here to stop you from undoing what everyone worked so hard for. Chara scowled in response. This isn't even your timeline yet you dare to stand my way. I may detest humanity, but there are a few whom I at least tolerate, and I've come to like it here as if it was my own. I'm not gonna let you of all people take that away from me. Brandishing a bloody kitchen knife, Chara pointed it at Jichara. Fine, if you're gonna side with the humans and traitorous monsters, then you've clearly lost your true purpose. That human Naruto has changed you, made you weak. If I have to kill you, then so be it. If you really believe that I'm weak, Jichara brandished her own weapon, which is a red single-edged sword with the hilt designed to resemble the Delta rune, as it's made entirely out of her determination. She pointed her sword at Chara with her eyes glowing red. Why don't you come over here, so we can find out just how weak I am? Chara was surprised upon seeing Chara's own version of the sword of determination. Since when can you use a sword? Jichara smirked, swinging her sword a few times. Got the inspiration from Naruto. He's just full of ideas. Angered upon hearing the blonde's name, Chara rushed at Jichara and swung her knife at the latter, who dodged it with a sidestep, then continued to evade the following attacks from the knife of her raging counterpart before seizing the right opportunity to advance forwards while tilting her body to the side for the incoming blade to whiz inches past her head to counter by seeing her free hand to punch Chara in the stomach, then followed up with a diagonal slash which her opponent barely moved. Her knife in time to block it, then jumped backwards to recover. Chara looked at her counterpart with pure disdain. To think she was fighting to support the very humans who were the source of their pain and the monsters that betrayed them. She refuses to lose to such a person, no matter what. She thinks she can beat me. Let's see how she handles this. Sensing something harmful, Jichara leapt backwards right as numerous red knives rose from the ground until they were hovering above Chara's head, then they aimed in her direction and launched themselves at high speed. Chara released her grip on her sword for it to hover in the air in front of her before spinning rapidly like a propeller to deflect the incoming bladed projectiles until there weren't any more. Then she mentally launched the still spinning sword at MT, Chara, who conjured a wall of knives to block the attack for it to return to its wielder's hand. You're not the only one who can pull that trick. Chara conjured her own copies of red knives above her head before launching them at MT, Chara, who charged forward, evading the deflecting the blades, all the while channeling a large amount of determination into her knife, making it glow red as she reached her target and attacked with a powerful slash. Knowing that it can't be easily blocked, Chara jumped backwards to evade the attack, then she pointed her sword at MT, Chara as energy gathered at the tip of the blade, which she then moved forward to launch a red beam of energy. However, MT, Chara channeled her determination once more to cleave the energy beam in half. Why are you getting in the way? There's no point of you fighting for humanity when they've done nothing but hurt you. MT, Chara demanded angrily. Chara shook her head in response, because what you intend to do is what I've done already. Looking back at it, what I was doing was nothing more than me being a broken record, kill all and then reset, kill all and then reset, kill all and then reset, a continuous cycle of killing with no end in sight. Sounds rather dull now that I think about it. Naruto helped me see that there's more to life than repetitive genocide, making me more open-minded, unlike you who's the opposite. MT, Chara was getting angry to the point of black liquid seeping out of her eyes and mouth. You have some nerve to say that what I intend to do to be dull, downplaying the pain we had to go through. I'm not downplaying our pain, but rather trying to tell you to let go of that pain instead of it shackling you to the past. Shut up. You're nothing but a fake. Just die. MT, Chara lunged at Chara, swinging her knife in a frenzy, with the latter having to clash blades with her sword. The sounds of metal clashing against each other echoes throughout the walls of the basement as the two Charas continued to fight one another. However, it was apparent that Chara was having the edge due to having more combat experience and having also been watching Naruto and the others during their training sessions and developing ideas of her own. They jumped away for a short breather and stared into each other's eyes. I must kill her, she's an obstacle just like the rest. I'll destroy her with this one strike, thought MT, Chara with gritted teeth as she began gathering energy into the knife to make it form an extension of itself in a BLD red burning aura. Chara frowned at this. She plans to end this fight with a single decisive blow. I'll just have to respond in kind. I can't afford to lose here, for Frisk's and everyone else's sake. Had to think I would be fighting for others. Instead of for myself. Maybe this is what they wanted us real and I to do if I hadn't come up with that plan. Contemplating on how to counter MT, Chara's attack, Chara recalled something that Naruto did and took a stance whereby she held her sword with both hands to the side while the blade was diagonally positioned towards the ground before shrouding it in her determination. MT, Chara on the other hand was channeling as much determination in her knife as she could with intention to destroy the sword and her counterpart. From one's outside perspective, they would see the auras of the two Charas take on the shape of certain figures. MT, Chara's aura took on the shape of an irritated grim reaper while Chara's aura is that of a steadfast fallen angel. The two stared at each other intently before dashing forward at high speed with their auras following suit until they met in the middle for a final yet powerful clash which resulted in an explosion. The smoke resulting from the explosion soon dissipated to reveal Chara still standing with her sword in hand. On the other hand, MT, Chara was sprawled out on the ground with a broken blade of her knife laying next to her while the handle was in her hand. MT, Chara laid on the ground in disbelief. How? She flashed back to the clash. She saw herself swinging down her knife in a vertical slash while Chara swung her sword upwards in an uppercut. The moment the blades collided, Chara's sword sliced through her knife cleanly like a knife through butter. How did you do it? It was a technique I saw Naruto do once some time ago. It was meant to break an opponent's blade. He further improved it by channeling determination on the sword's edge to make it sharper than when you channel it throughout the whole blade, Chara explained. MT, Chara groaned in pain and frustration. Naruto, it's always Naruto. Just what is special about that guy? Chara looked at her counterpart with a small frown. Tell me, just what is your reason for wanting to commit genocide? And I want the real reason why you're going through all this trouble to begin with, not that old excuse of wanting to destroy humanity. MT, Chara looked away with a scoff. It's none of your business, you're not from around here. Considering that I beat you just now, you have no right to veto. Chara glared at Chara for a while in defiance before sighing and looking away from her to stare at the broken blade lying next to her before speaking in a low tone. In the past, I hated humanity and even cursed myself for being a member of such a species. That was until I met Asriel and his family of monsters. They happily made me a member of their family and the monsters treated me like I was one of them, which lessened my hatred. Wanting to repay them for everything they had done for me, I came up with the plan to destroy the barrier by fusing with Asriel to go through the barrier to collect the number of human souls needed to destroy it. Chara frowned at her next words, but then Asriel had to go and mess up everything by refusing to kill the humans, which got us both killed instead. It not only reignited my hatred for humans but also towards Asriel. I ate those buttercups for nothing because he had to betray me at that critical point. That was why you wished for the extermination of both humans and monsters? Chara inquired. I only hated the humans and Asriel. Monsters were just a stepping stone to acquire the LV that I lacked for my end goal. But then Frisk and Naruto came with me living in her body, but I couldn't influence her since she was so fixated on that guy, leaving me with no other choice but to sit and watch. I observed their entire journey through the underground and actually succeeded where I failed, breaking the barrier and even managing to bring Asriel back to life by helping to create a rainbow soul which they called Miracle. By all rights, I should be happy, and yet. What about me? Where is my happy ending, huh? I sacrificed everything for them and this is how I live the rest of my life. As a ghost? How is this fair? Chara glared at Chara with tears brimming in her eyes. I began to hate how everyone gets to have a happy ending and even Asriel of all people gets to enjoy a second chance in life while I don't. It's not fair. I hated Asriel, I hated humanity, and I began to hate Naruto as well. And as if that wasn't bad enough, I was replaced by you, who was a mass murderer from another timeline, with everyone giving you the benefit of the doubt but staying on their toes. All this because of one person. Chara frowned at who she was insinuating. You're talking about Naruto, aren't you? Chara glared in response. He's the center of everything and possesses the power of reset since he's more determined than Frisk. I figured that the best way to get rid of him and gain the power of reset would be to be more determined than him, then go back to the beginning and kill him then and there. Doing so would leave me in complete control and I can freely commit genocide without any unnecessary interruptions. However, he would surely come back, so I would need a lot of LVs which I could gain by killing his friends. Then I'll go after Asriel to remind that he doesn't deserve a second chance and remind him of the traitorous crybaby that he is. There, those are my true reasons. Chara looked at her counterpart then sighed. Look, I myself thought back to the plan itself and like you felt that it was foolproof since we were indifferent to the humans. However, we failed to consider how Asriel and the Dreamer family would feel about it. They're the kindest people we have ever met and would no doubt oppose it. Remember how Asriel didn't want to continue with the plan halfway but still did so because of us. Another factor is that the monsters wanted to build peaceful bonds with the humans and wouldn't want to do so on a bloody foundation. A small part knew this, which was why we didn't tell them and only confided in Asriel. Chara said nothing, neither agreeing nor disagreeing with the statement. I understand where you're coming from, I really do, since I was in the same boat like you, believing that Asriel betrayed me when I needed him the most and wanted to use the power of reset to be the MSTR of my timeline, and that I was above all consequences like a god. Boy, was I wrong the moment I met Naruto and he stopped me forcefully. Of course he did. Listen, I don't want you to go through the same thing I did. Continuing on this route and letting the hate grow to the point that it becomes powerful enough to take control of you, which is ironic since we did take control of Frisk. Look, what I'm trying to tell you is that it's not worth it. I agree that it's not fair that you sacrificed everything for the plan only for it to go badly, but it's also not fair that you take away that freedom that Naruto and Frisk had struggled and bled to gain from monsterkind to be able to live in the surface with the humans, and even take away Asriel's second chance, Chara explained. However, Chara refuses to see reason. He doesn't deserve to have that chance. He's a murderer just like you and I. I've seen what he had done when he was flowy. He committed terrible acts, manipulation, and killings because he could then reset the timeline and thinks he's above consequences. He must be punished. Chara obviously didn't like how Chara was speaking so badly about Israel, well aware of the suffering he had to go through as a flower with no emotion as he has. Suffered enough as is, he has to live with the guilt of his past actions as Flowy and seeking to atone for them just like his father. There's no need to remind him of such a painful past and you have no right to judge him. Chara scowled, like you're one to talk, you have no right to judge me and involve yourself with him. What even gives you the right when you're just as bad if not worse than Israel when he was Flowy? You're just an even worse murderer who committed genocide without a care in the world. Maybe you don't deserve a second chance either or even have the right to be in this timeline since you can't even make for the damage you caused in your old one, and to think you have the gall to take my place just so you can run from the sins you had committed. You disgust me. Chara didn't say anything to oppose that, or rather she couldn't, as Chara spoke the truth. She really has no right to judge, as she used to be proud of the things she had done but not anymore after she had been enlightened. How could she be proud of the lives of those who did her no wrong that she ruined, like how she made Sans watched as she decapitated Papyrus in front of him without any form of remorse? Made the monsters go extinct and resetted the timeline twice just so she could it again, and almost went for the third time had Naruto not stopped her. In spite of what she had done, you're correct that I have no right to judge others when I had done even worse things and I don't belong to this timeline. My actions can't be excused, but I'm trying to atone for them. Even now it feels like I haven't even begun to atone for my sins, which will never stop haunting me, and I will have to live with that fact that I'm a murderer. Besides, I wouldn't be able to return to my timeline even if I wanted to, plus it'd be better that I don't. I've already caused too much pain and misery because of my blind enmity and hate. I'm just giving them the life they deserve and leaving them alone. I owe them that much. Plus I've come to like this timeline as I can at least be with this Israel and go back to being the siblings we were before all this happened. Chara wasn't expecting her to give such a response. How can you still care about Israel after what he did? Simple, as he is my crybaby brother. Even though he ruined the plan, a small part of me didn't really hate Azzy, but I let my anger blind me. He was the one who found us, gave us shelter, even his family took us in and treated us as one of their own. I couldn't truly hate him for something that went against his kind nature. As a matter of fact, the most guilt I felt is that this family were so kind and yet our actions broke them apart. Asriel got killed, then turned into the emotionless Flowy. Askari in his grief proclaimed war against humanity just to give monsterkind hope. Torio left everyone in disgust, and we became the Grim Reaper instead of their savior. This isn't how we wanted to repay everyone for what they did for us, not at all. Chara paused at that. She remembered how at that time she called for help and Asriel responded to that, taking her to his home for his family to care for her in spite of her species. She remembered all of the good times with them and how she felt her hatred turn to joy. She remembered their shared dream of wanting to see the world together and help everyone get along. She also recalled the discomfort on Asriel's face when she told him of her plan but chose to cooperate since she is his sibling. She began to realize that she had been pushing him too much by trying to make him kill the humans, which went against his nature and longing to make peace with them. She let her ego blind her into believing that Asriel betrayed her when she was forcing him to do something he didn't like. Have I always been such a demon? Maybe it was right that everyone is so wary of me, thought Chara with self-loathing. Chara saw the expression on her counterpart and knew what she was thinking. As he doesn't hate you but rather feels responsible, as he didn't try to stop you when you came up with this plan. He felt that none of these things would have happened had he done so. Even after everything we did, he still wanted us to be his siblings again. So tell me, do you still want to continue on this path? No, I don't want to anymore. I even feel sick now that I think of it. I've caused enough problems. It's best that I just go away and never come back. Wait, hold on. Chara protested. You don't need to leave, you can still remain and be with everyone. You have every right to be here. Chara shook her head in disagreement. It won't work. Having two of us will be problematic, as the moment I show myself, they'll be hostile towards me for my past actions, and let's not forget that I was the one who caused Frisk's nightmares. I seriously doubt I can be easily forgiven for that. But still, Chara didn't want her to just fade away. There has to be something that can allow her to be with everyone. Wait, how about we merge? Chara was confused by the suggestion. What do you mean by merging? If we fuse our souls together, we'll become one as a new Chara. We can work together to atone for our sins and still be with everyone. Don't you want that? Chara nodded slowly. I do, I need to make amends too. And to think I wanted to ruin everything because I felt neglected. There's also something I want to tell Azzy. I'm sure the new us will do that. Chara held out a hand with her soul emerging from her chest. Are you ready? Chara hesitated for a moment but steeled herself as she stretched a hand towards her counterparts with her soul emerging as well. Yes, I am. The two closed their eyes in concentration as they pressed their hands together, then their souls gradually fused, which released a bright flash of light. Inside the light, the two souls could be seen completely fusing into one and began pulsing like a heart, beating rhythmically as a black human-shaped silhouette appeared as the light finally died down to reveal a single Chara standing there with her eyes closed and now wearing a flower crown made of buttercups on her head. Chara then opened her eyes and looked down at her hands. Looks like the merging was a success. Guess I have twice as much to atone for my sins, she sighed sadly, looking around the destruction in the basement and turned towards the damaged door, which was the only thing protecting Frisk from her. I really messed up this time. I really hope they can forgive me for this. It's best that I leave before I make things worse. She then left the dreamscape to return to Naruto and explain everything to him. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 8. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Hussbek on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.